Hello one and all, good afternoon and welcome back to another live stream for the World Sports Car Challenge hosted by us here at Chequered Flag Simsports. Today it's round 5 of the championship, and that means it's the halfway point in season 4 of this series, and we are at Mid-Ohio Circuit. What a place to visit. It's the first time we've actually been here as part of the series. We tried going last year but ran into some technical problems, but that's all in the past now, and we can finally get to multi-class racing at this brilliant American circuit. Obviously a very different change of pace here than what they are typically used to, the teams that is. It's going to be very narrow, very tight, and very little room to actually do any overtaking, and those overtaking opportunities are extremely limited as well. You've got, of course, the long straight that goes down the back in towards sector 2. You've got a short opportunity opening up on the main start finish line, and there's a small slither of road available as you go into the penultimate corner in sector 3. So again, it's going to be very difficult for the teams here to judge that overtaking opportunity, and those with a bit of patience and those with cool heads are certainly going to be the ones that reap the rewards here this afternoon. But let's talk about 2 weeks ago, because we did of course visit Spa-Francorchamps. That was a very dramatic race for the teams, a lot of casualties indeed. I think it's the highest we've ever had in our championship as a whole, and that definitely changed the standings in a dramatic way. So let's just quickly touch on those if we can. And it is Team Rookie Monsters that lead the way with 111 points, but they had issues at the end of the race. They did not make it to the finish, only taking first place at the 3-hour mark where there's double points available. And in second, it is On-Off Racing. They had a huge issue at the start of the race. They had contact with the number 6 Black Hawk Racing car coming into Radeon, and they got a massive penalty as a result, but they fought back as the race went through and managed to take home 32 points, 108 in total on the board for them. So a massive comeback for On-Off Racing that time round. Then it's Go Team Racing. They had a great weekend as well, coming up into third place with 98 points. So you can already tell that the championship is going to be very tight indeed for those top 3 positions. And then the 33 for Fair Racing Team, 88 points on the board there for them. And then rounding out the top 5 is the number 6. Terrible weekend for Black Hawk Racing as a whole, unfortunately. Let's hope they can do well here to retake some points, but they are on 82 points after scoring nothing 2 weeks ago. In GT3s, let's quickly touch on those before we go into the qualifying session here. It is the Bros Racing Ferrari team, 130 points on the board for them, followed by the A-Team Simco car, the Porsche, with 125. It was Luna Racing that had a really terrible weekend as they got caught up in an accident at the top of Radeon as well, and they have 100 points as a result of that, so dropping down by 2 positions unfortunately. Then is the 9-team Simco Porsche in 4th with 84 points, followed by the number 3 from Team Rookie Monsters in 5th with 74 points. They're being closely followed by another team though, and that is the sister car of the 73. So certainly don't count them out of the standings either. So there you go, there's the official results as of 2 weeks ago. If you did miss the race, I highly recommend you go back in time and go to our YouTube channel and re-watch that, because it was dramatic as you can get. But right now, let's get down to the qualifying session here. We've already started. We're 8 minutes in at the moment. And of course, as always, it is the GT3s that enter the circuit first. And the LMP2s have the last final 15 minutes of the session. And so far, it's Maurice Mell that leads the way in the Go Team Racing number 13 Corvette, and that's a lap time of 1:19.122 on the board for that particular team. They had a really strong result, or really strong performance at Spa 2 weeks ago. They actually took pole position by 0.6 seconds on that last minute flying lap. However, it just didn't come together. I think one of the drivers had a storm in the local area where they live, and that resulted in them being disconnected from the server, and it was, you know, it's one of those moments where you just can't help. But they were leading the race up until that point, so it's a shame they didn't score any points. Then we've got Dylan Tarboton for the 69 RSA Sim Racing car. They are in second place and only 0.2 seconds adrift from that pole position time, so they're really strong this afternoon as well. Then it's the first of the BMWs with Arcadia Satriva for Panica Gaming in their 29 machine. They're setting a lap times of 1:19.3, so 0.5 seconds off your overall leader there. Then we have Luigi Russo for the 26. That's the second of the BMWs. That's Minato Boffa Sim Racing, and that's 0.516 seconds off the pole sitting time. So very close indeed across the front pack. Of course, it is a very short circuit, so we're expecting times to be very narrow indeed and close together. In fact, if you look all the way down towards P10, that's only 1 second gap between all of those positions there, with still 5 minutes to go, so expect them to come even closer as we approach the end of this session. Velasquez is in the pit lane at the moment for the Simco Porsche. They're sitting in P5 at the moment with a 1:19.4, so they've got to find a bit of extra time. Maurice Mel's just broken into the 1:18s, so 1:18.8 is the fastest GT3 car here at the moment. And so just trying to find the extra 10th or two. And for those of you that are a bit nerdy and you like looking at the data side of things, and we've just posted a link to the live timing on all of our platforms. And if you want to see who is doing what sector times, etc., then you can have a little peep there via that link, and it will tell you all the information you could ever want to know. Moving just further down the order, we've got the 99 from Jeff Kloss. That's a new driver for the 99 this time by, I believe. Haven't seen that name before. That's a 1:19.461. Just been demoted down into P7 as the 111 from Minato Boffa Sim Racing goes up into P5 themselves. So very strong performance from both Corvette and the BMWs. Porsche seem to be struggling ever so slightly, although we know that Velasquez will certainly be out in a few moments' time setting some further laps. Having said that, the 19 is all the way down in 9th place with a 1:19.8. So surely some ground to be made up there as well. And Dennis Castillo Sims, the guys that performed so strongly in the Ferrari back at Spa 2 weeks ago, they are in 8th place at the moment, 1:19.5. As they go through the chicane. As you can see, we are using the chicane layout, which is quite controversial. It's not really used that much. For obvious reasons. It's one less overtaking opportunity, especially coming up into the hairpin. But we thought, you know what, this is too easy for these guys. We've got to up the game. So that's why the chicane variant is being used. And that's what I was saying earlier. It's all about being patient here this afternoon for the teams. They really do have to think about where they want to overtake and how, because of course very few opportunities available. A lot of these corners as well, only one car or one optimal racing line, otherwise it will be just a closing wedge if they decide to force the matter on some of these corners, especially the one that we're just looking at now, which is turn 9, which is towards Thunder Valley. Now Dennis Castillo Sims going around the track at the moment. Let's see if we can get an onboard view and go around Mid-Ohio in the GT3s and walk you through the track. So onto the start finish line is a very low grip as the camber changes very quickly down to turn 1, and there's a curb here that goes adjacent with the pit exit line. You do not want to touch that, it is deadly. And then use the curbing very slightly on the exit into the chicane. Carry as much speed as you dare through the first half, hug the inside and make sure you don't overburden the exit, otherwise you will be very compromised going into turn 2, which is called the keyhole, and that just catapults you back down onto the back straight. This is where the race is going to start when we finally go into green conditions. Great overtaking opportunity, the best one here at Mid-Ohio, and then heavy on the brakes. It's all about the last of the late breakers down into turns 4. A lot of camber changes, and it's all about making sure you don't overspeed into one particular corner, as we get a bit of join lag there from one of the drivers. and into the S's. This is very tricky indeed, all about the car position and throttle management, as the cars can start to spin up those rear wheels if you're not too careful. And then over the brow of the hill into Thunder Valley for turn 9. Stay left, then go switching over to the right as quick as you can into turns 11. It's all about throttle management again. Want to get the car slowed down early, and then into the carousel. For the GT3s, I think they go slightly offline and then cut back again, as we saw just there. So it's not about hugging that apex immediately. They kind of have to go wide and then drop back down again. And that is a full lap of Mid-Ohio. Dennis Castillo-Sims improving that time by with a 1:19.2. That's good enough to get him into 4th place at the moment. So a very strong lap from the Ferrari driver there. Now Maurice Mellon is back out on circuit once again. We've got another minute left of GT3 qualifying, so I don't even think he'll be able to get to the start-finish line in time. We'll have to wait and see how that goes. But they will be allowed to finish the laps that they are currently on, but they aren't allowed to start a new lap past the 15-minute mark. So we've got about 40 seconds left before the LMP2s begin their qualifying session. And all I can say is that I'm expecting times to be quite fast indeed. LMP2 qualifying is always extremely close, and at the moment it's still Maurice Mell in charge, but Luigi Russo in the 26 BMW has closed the gap down to 0.034, so 400ths of a second, so that's very close indeed for those two front-running teams. I'm not too sure where you'd want to be in the grand scheme of things, if it's on the right-hand side or the left for the pole sitter. But coming down the back straight, which is where we're going to go green, I would think you would want the inside line.
Well, drivers, this is race control. GT3 qualifying is now over. You may finish your current lap. LMP2s may enter the circuit.
So Maurice Mell just managed to get across the start-finish line one final time, as did a few of the other GT3s as well, for one final attempt of improving their current lap times. We've got Dylan Tarboton still out on circuit as well for the number 69 RSA Sim Racing car. They're currently sitting in P6 with a 1:19.3, so they'd need to find another 0.4 seconds if they want to get into the podium positions here. So he's got a green sector 1 coming through sector 2 now. Always slightly slower than before. It's not on pace, but only by 1/10, so it couldn't be the end of the world. He just needs to make sure he gets the carousel correct. And they're coming across the line now, so the final order for this afternoon for the GT3s. Dylan Tarboton goes up into P4, so it is a stronger lap there for the 69. And Maurice Mell improves by just a 10th as well as he goes onto the grass, just for good measure. So it's at 1:18.747 there. So your official order for GT3 is the number 13 for Go Team Racing, Luigi Russo in the Minato Boffa Sim Racing car. Then it's Andrew Parkinson for the 11 from Trax VR Racing. And then Dylan Tarboton for the 69 RSA Sim Racing in P4. Then it's Dennis Castillo-Sims for the Bros Racing Ferrari team in P5, and then it's Team Simco with Balaskis in P6. So let's just look at the gaps. Yeah, all the way up to P10, the gap is up to 1 second in qualifying, and these front running teams, as mentioned before, the gap is 0.1 seconds, so 1/10 separating the front runners, and then it starts to widen slightly by at least 0.3, so 3/10 between the next few teams. But it's going to be very, very close indeed, especially when that traffic comes into play. It's not going to be so easy to get those fast lap times in. And now following around the championship leader, Mantis Rikas at the moment, who just holds on by 3 points over On-Off Racing, who are in second with 108. It's going to be an interesting weekend for them, of course, after the drama out of the 6 hours of Spa. I'm sure they're ready to rectify these issues and come home with another victory, but certainly won't be easy for them. Nicholas Lemoyne just comes across the line first, setting the bar at 1:10.7, which gets immediately demoted by Mantis Rikas by 1/10. So that's the time to beat so far is 1:10.608. And then Cliff van der Vinnie is rounding out the rest of the podium positions with a 1:11.0. Max Scholten, the sister car for the Fair Racing team, coming across in P4, so good duo performance from them so far. Of course, still quite a while to go before the end of qualifying, but it's a good start to the afternoon for them. And then Mark Wright for the Black Hawk Racing car, the 66, 1:11.4 in P5. Here comes the number 6. Of course, they had a very strong performance throughout the season so far. As already mentioned, not too good at Spa as they got had contact on the first corner. So they'll be looking to score some solid points here this afternoon. They've got a wonderful open piece of track here, so nothing else to worry about other than the lap itself, which is exactly what you want for qualifying. And if I'm being truly honest, the only real advantage you'd get here at Mid-Ohio, especially from the slipstream situation, would probably be coming down that straight between turn 5 and 6, which won't really gain you too much time, maybe a tenth. But, you know, as soon as you go into the twisty stuff, it would only provide you with plenty of understeer, which of course we don't need for these prototypes. But he's just setting his first lap now. No doubt the next one will be flying. It's usually 3 laps a pop before you come back into pit lane. And he's coming across the line now for the first time. Let's see what the number 6 does. And it is P4, so 1:11.072. And that was enough for that time by, so he seems to be quite happy with that performance on that particular run. He goes straight back out once again onto the circuit to have another go at those front row seats. Royal Blue Racing on another strong performance. They're sitting in 7th place as well, 1:11.5. So again, we're seeing quite low speeds between, or low gaps, should I say, sorry, between the LMP2 teams. Mantis Rika still holding on to that front row seat for now, but Nicholas Lemoyne is hot on his tails with 0.1 seconds behind with a 1:10.7. So just when Mantis gets up and running, he's on his out lap at the moment, so no doubt he's going to pull to the side and let the Fair Racing team boys by. That's Cliff van der Veen in the 57 going through. And he is on a flying lap himself, I believe. So Mantis is going to do his warm-up lap, and then we will go on board with the number 1 team, Ricky Monster Machine, just to give you guys a front row seat of the action as they fly through this American circuit. Now Cliff van der Veen on Sector 1, 31.2, that's almost 2 tenths down. A bit faster in Sector 2, but still not great as he comes into the final sector. So it's all about the carousel. Ooh, big sideways moment coming into the penultimate corner, and that will definitely heat up those rears. On board with Mantis now, though, as he comes across the start-finish line. He's in pole position at the moment, but let's just see the speed difference coming into turn 1. So have to lift off the throttle ever so slightly coming into the apex, but straight back on it before entering the chicane, hugging the inside line, downshifting into 2nd gear, and then trying to get the car turned in, using the brakes to manipulate the car, and then catapulting his way down the back straight once more. Hitting the kink on the right hand side for turn 3 before going over to the left, and then heavy braking. You can hear him down changing aggressively and using all the road available. Get the car back centre circuit for turn 5, and then into the S's. Once again, it's about throttle management, upshifting early if needed to keep the car in check, and then down into turns 9, over the crest of the hill. Watch that apex if you can, because it can chuck you into the grass, and then Thunder Valley. Oh, a bit of oversteer there, had to change gear just to correct that before entering the carousel, and they actually run quite wide, even wider than the GT3s. They've obviously got a lot more downforce to play with, and across the line for Mantis Rikas, and it is faster that time by with a 10.527. So they're still on pole position. Nicholas Lemoyne, in the meantime, did momentarily go into first place while we was on board with that particular lap, but they've since been demoted, and the gap is 0.032 seconds. So that is extremely close indeed. 0.03 of a second between the two front row positions there. Cliff Vanderveen still holding on to third place for the time being, 10.9. So there's a few of the teams that are in the 1 minute 10s, all the way up to P5 in class, which is held by the 33 by Max Scholten, and he's just outside with 111.074. Number 6 has gone into P4 with the same time as well, so it's 10.9 on the board, or 1 minute's 10.9. And that is just over 4 tenths. Oh, Mantis has a big moment, twitching on the exit of turns 11 there. So that's how easy it can go wrong here. There's hardly any runoff available. The curbing is very aggressive as well. So if you decide to touch one of those, it can really create a lot of understeer and oversteer and send you off into a barrier, because they are everywhere at Mid-Ohio. And I think that's going to be one of the challenges here this afternoon for the teams, is managing the risk. Of course, when the multi-class racing element comes into this particular race, it is certainly going to present a challenge not seen before this season. And if anyone decides to have a mistake, just a small error, and that's all it will take, because all that's on either side of the circuit here, there's no runoff, it's just grass and gravel, followed by a solid haystack or solid brick wall. Now we're following Max Scholten around at the moment for the 33. He's got to find an extra tenth or two to break into the 1 minute 10s. And if he can find just that 1 tenth, he will actually go into third place ahead of his teammate, Cliff Vanderveen. So a very strong performance by both the Fair Racing team cars. And just talking about the teams as well, we've got the other team, Rookie Monster Machine, in P7. So they've demoted the Royal Blue Racing car down by 1. And as we come to the end of this qualifying session, we're at 4 minutes left. All of the LMP2s are within 8 tenths of one another, which is staggering to say. So very strong performance by everyone here this afternoon. The only person that seems to be struggling at the moment is Nick Newcomb in the 16, unfortunately. The sister car for them is the 15. They're actually doing quite well. Luca Gray into the 111.2s. So Nick seems to be struggling for Juice's Motorsport. He's still got some time. He just could maybe have not had a chance to bring a lap fully together yet. But he is currently on a 113 when everyone else is on a 111. So fingers crossed he can get up there in the mix before the end of the session. Of course, qualifying is wonderful to have. Oh, and actually we've had a massive change which I've just completely missed. I do apologise, but the number 6 from Black Hawk Racing on pole position now with a 110.4. Nicholas Lemoyne as well for On-Off Racing, who are just coming over the hill as well. They've actually occupied second place alongside, which is a 110.4 as well. 6.5, so there's only 0.5 hundredths of a second between the two front row seats. Mantis Rikas, in the meantime, is occupying third. He's out for another run at the moment, but in the closing stages of qualifying, 3 minutes left, he's really got to bring that lap together before time runs out. It's not on a flying lap. This will be the key moment here for the number 1. Is he going to be able to bring this lap together? Touches the curb, tries to get as much as a run onto the start as one of the cars gets out of the way as they come across the line for the final time. And let's have a look at these sets of times as they come through. Really going fast into the chicane here. That's going to be a different story, of course, when we go racing. get it turned in. You can hear him just tapping the throttle, try to generate that bit of oversteer to get that front end to hit that apex. And down the back straight, this is where we're going to get the first piece of data. And it's a 30.9. It's not showing purple, unfortunately, for Mantis, so it's not going to be the fastest. He needs to make up the rest of the ground in Sector 2 then. Slightly missed the apex there on turn 7. And over the brow of turn 11 now. Exiting the S's into turns 11 and towards the carousel. Is it going to be enough? Sector 2 is 21.8, which it's not purple, or drifting the rear end into the carousel. Is that going to hurt the time as he comes across the finish line? He's still got a chance to do one more lap, but last lap was a 1 minute 10.5, which is not faster at all. He's lost it completely, exiting the first corner, just hit the curb, and that's exactly what happens. That small error can really send you into a world of pain. So for now then, it is the number 6 that's doing everything, and in fact Mantis isn't going to have enough time to get back out on track again. There's less than 1 minute left, of course 1 minute 10 to get around the circuit, so provided the number 6 can hold on to that pole position, they will be leading the pack here this afternoon into the race. And he's actually decided to abandon that particular lap, or is he deciding to go? Yeah, so he's going for one more flying lap here. The number 6 from Black Hawk Racing. On-Off Racing are in second place still, and they themselves are behind them and out on circuit for one final time. 25 seconds left. This will be the final lap here. On-Off Racing abandoned it exactly the same error as Mantis did just a few moments ago. That inside curb at turn 1, it is lethal. Unstables the car, or unsettles the car, and sends you straight into the grass. Oh, you can see how much they're pushing the track limits here. The rear left wheel was on the white line and just about to touch the grass there for the number 6. So far though, it is the same as before. So the number 6 in pole position, followed by Nicholas Lemoyne, who they themselves are in the pits. Mantis Freakers for Team Rookie Monsters in 3rd. And then Mark Veit in the 66. They've had a really strong finish here. They are currently sitting in P4. And then it is Max Scholten in P5, followed by the sister car with Cliff van der Veen in P6. So Max Scholten in the end going ahead of his teammate in the closing stages of qualifying 2. Then it's Royal Blue Racing in the number 4. They're in P7, so they managed to get into the 110s as well. And as we come across the line, it is the number 2 that changes, going into P8. So that is, what a staggering qualifying session. All of the top cars all the way up into P8 and 9. 0.6 seconds between them all, and then Luca Gray 0.8 seconds. So it's very close in the LMP2 class indeed. So that is your results. It will be Black Hawk Racing starting for the LMP2s. For company, they've got Nicholas Lemoyne for On-Off Racing, who, of course, are in second place in the championship standings. And GT3-wise, it is going to be the Go Team Racing car. And they have the BMW of Minato Boffa Sim Racing as well. This is going to be a tough one, ladies and gents, that is for sure. We're just going to go for a 5-minute warm-up before we go racing. We're just going to have a quick little break and we'll be right back with the racing action. So don't go anywhere. The 3 hours of Mid-Ohio is coming right up after this. Good afternoon, ladies and gents. Welcome back to the live stream here for round 5 of the World Sports Car Challenge. Of course, if you haven't watched the qualifying, you'll know. You won't know that we're at Mid-Ohio for the first time in WSCC history, and boy, is it going to be a challenging one here this afternoon. If you didn't see the qualifying, how close it was with the LMP2s and the GT3s, highly recommend you hit that rewind button on YouTube or Twitch, wherever you're watching here this afternoon, and have a good gander at those lap times, because it was close indeed. At the moment, we're just waiting for the warm-up session to finish, which I believe it just has, and go over to the race, where we will bring you, of course, the 3-hour race between these two great classes. We're just lining up on to the start finishing line now, and it was the number 6 from Blackport Racing that was able to bring home that front row seat, and Nicholas de Moyne for On-Off Racing in second place. So very strong performance from both of those guys. Championship standing wise, of course, we are midway through the season now. It is the number 1 which is leading in LMP2 with 111 points, and On-Off Racing are close behind with 108.
All drivers, just to remind everyone, we'll be doing a full formation lap followed by the first 5 corners. The green zone will be on the back straight. Please take it easy through the first lap, and good luck.
So that was just the race director just quickly reminding people about the hazard of starting. We are going live on the back straight. Let's have a quick look at qualifying results for you and see who is where. So we've got Blackhawk Racing, as mentioned just previously, on that front row, followed by On-Off Racing, who joined them alongside for the start. Mantis Rikas, our championship leaders, are in third, and then it is the 66 with Mark Fight behind the wheel in P4. Then it's Max Scholten, the first of the fair racing teams, and they're joining each other alongside, with Cliff van der Vin in the 57 close behind in 6th. Then it's Royal Blue Racing in P7, followed by Lars Jepperson with Team Rookie Monsters in P8. Then you've got Go Team Racing in the number 7 in P9, Luca Gray in P10, sorry, should I say. And then rounding out the final of the prototypes, it is Nick Newcomb for Juice's Motorsport Club. Moving over to the GT3s, it is a great performance for the Corvette for Go Team Racing. Maurice Mel coming home in first. Then it's Luigi Russo in the 26. Minato Boffa Sim Racing in second. Andrew Parkinson's for Trax VR Racing. Really strong performance from those guys this afternoon, coming home in P3. Then it's Dylan Torboten in P4 for RSA Sim Races. The first of the Ferraris in P5, Bros Racing with Dennis Castillo Sims. And then P6 is Velasquez for Team Simco in their Porsche. Arcadius Truba in P7 for Panica Gaming, followed by the second of the Minato Boffa BMWs. And then we have, rounding out the top 10 there, is Alton Motorsports in P20. Then you've got the 19, the second of the Simco Porsches. And Team Rookie Monsters with Bradley Sellers coming home in P22, with Carl Wright for the number 10 with SWMD Ajax Racing. Then you've got the Bentley, the only one that's here this afternoon or in the series, in P24, and then Shattered Windshield Racing with San Lapalu. We've got a 1F entry here, which they're using one of the stock skins available, hence why you've got this horrible graphic at the bottom of your screen. But we are going to be going racing very shortly. So Adam, actually Luna Racing doing very badly.
Form up into 2x2 on the start finish straight, please, and prepare for the start.
So Luna Racing, they did really well at Spa. They were leading
GT3s, remember to leave a gap to the LMP2s ahead.
So yeah, Luna Racing doing very badly here. They're actually starting way down the order, so maybe they couldn't get a clean qualifying lap. I'm not too sure, but we'll get our banners up and ready, get all the data available as they go on to the start finish straight. Of course, we are starting between turn 5 and 6 here at Mid-Ohio. It's the longest straight we have available. Makes sense to start there as opposed to the very short run down towards the start finish line. But as usual, 2 wide formation for the start. It's actually going to be the Blackhawk Racing car that's going to have the optimal line on the run down towards the first corner, shall we say, which will be turn 6. Because they will have the inside line, which will be better for them in the grand scheme of things. That means they can dictate where on-off racing will go, provided they, of course, get the leap first as they all come onto the long straight
All
now.
drivers, prepare for green flag.
So we're just waiting for them to get onto the main straight. Of course, the GT3s hopefully will get onto there as well. And we are going to go racing any second now.
Green.
Now, so Black Hawk Racing off to a decent start. On-off racing are forced onto the outside. All of the cars opting for that inside line if they can find some space. Here comes Mantis Rikas down the inside. He takes the lead. They're going 3 wide into the first corner, which is turn 6. And it is Team Rookie Monsters who take the lead on the first of the corners. That is incredible stuff performance there. Here comes the 66, the Sisti car with Mark Fight demoting on-off racing down into P4. Then it's the 2 Fair Racing Team cars behind as well.
10 seconds.
And we've had a massive incident somewhere, of course. Back to the GT3s just quickly, because it is still the Corvette from Go Team Racing, which is still going strongly.
Code 80 in effect.
And I'm not too sure who was... We've got the 99, which is... yeah, they seem to have had a collision. They're missing a front right wheel. So clearly having a few issues at the start there. So not too sure what caused that, but there seems to be only just the one casualty here. The 98 is the next car in line, which is Luna Racing. So they've got some work to do if they want to get up into those high scoring points. But yeah, very strange incident there for the 99. Doesn't seem to be anyone else that's been involved. And nobody else is coming into pit lane as well, as they've all got
99, reminder, we are under code 80 even if you are damaged. Well, drivers prepare for green flag.
Yes, the 99 comes back into pit lane there, so one casualty so far. Hopefully they can get that repaired. It is just a missing wheel. Hopefully they didn't cause too much damage.
5, 4, 3, 2,
and
1. Green flag.
Back to racing here as Mantis Rikas comes out of the hairpin onto the grass, and that's going to compromise his exit. Here comes Black Hawk Racing, the number 6. He gets squeezed onto the outside, but he's taken the lead already. So bad start from Mantis Rikas, coming down into Sector 2 already and back to where he started. He's still made up some ground because, of course, he did start P3, but now he is in a Black Hawk sandwich as the number 6 goes deep into the braking zone at turn 6. So really a lot of cold tyres, cold brakes coming into play here, but the number 6 still hangs on to that lead that they had at the start of the race. On-off racing in the eye shot as well as they all go through the what do you call it? The Thunder Valley, sorry, my apologies. It was turn 9 as I try to figure out where the hell I am on Mid-Ohio circuit. But it's a very close battle between the top 5 in the prototype class. As you can see, only 0.5 seconds separating all of them as they come down onto the start-finish line for the first time at full speed. Going over to the GT3s, we have Maurice Mell. He's got a slight gap over Dylan Tarboton in the RSA Sim Racing car. He's obviously done well to get out into second place on the drop of the green, as they did start in third, and the 26 Luigi Russo's BMW close behind, so it's a 1-2-4 Corvette at the moment, and Andrew Parkinson has been demoted off that podium position as well. He started third after qualifying in the number 11. So we will have the slipstream coming down the back straight. Down towards turn 4. We'll see how much the slipstream comes into effect here for the Corvette. And no opportunities that time by. Of course, you've got the 2 Porsches. Great start from the 19 from Simco. They were starting in P10, but they've managed to claw their way all the way up in the order into P6. So very strong performance from them. The top 5 still coming through turn 1 once more. It's going to be a very short lap time here this afternoon, and that means that multi-class racing will definitely be at its peak, as the classes are going to mix probably in the next 10 minutes or so, which is the fastest it's ever happened this season so far. And the question is, how is that going to impact the overtaking opportunities? Of course, they have to be patient, wait for the right moment to appear before taking that overtaking chance against some of the GT3 colleagues here. And that is going to add another element to this race. more so than we did at any other circuit, such as Spa, for example. We've got plenty of long straights, overtaking chances, whereas Mid-Ohio is exactly the opposite, which is what makes this round quite important if they want to make sure they take home those points. Now, is Mantis Freakus still within 1 second for the time being coming into the carousel? 0.7 seconds coming into the braking zone. Mark Vi still starting to drop back into the jaws of Nicholas Lemoyne in the on-off racing car. And the gap is down to at least half a second between these two teams. So Mark Vi obviously dropping back from our leaders here. That's allowing the Fair Racing team car, which is driven by Max Schulten, to come into the mix ever so slightly. So he's sitting in P5. He's got a nice buffer zone behind him in the form of his teammate Cliff van der Veen, who's defending against Royal Blue Racing himself. Nicholas Lemoyne starting to apply a bit of pressure to Mark Vi now for third place in class. No sign of the GT3s just as of yet. Let's pop over to that because that is very close indeed. We've got this battle between Andrew Parkinson and Luigi Russo. And Amato Buffer Sim Racing trying to defend. Oh, he's making a move down the inside into turn 4. No contact made. Tried to force the issue. Luckily, the door was still wide enough to avoid any kind of contact, but he tried to force the issue, but not enough. Now, Tracks VR Racing, they're doing very well in the season, especially at Spa. They had a very strong weekend. They're currently sitting in P10 with 58 points. So if they get a strong result here, they can really start to climb that ladder. They had a very strong round last 2 weeks, but the rest of the season for them hasn't been too great. They've run into a few issues in the first part of the season, but that seems to be ironing out some issues, and they seem to be very strong in the last 2 rounds or so. So fingers crossed they can perform well here this round as well at Mid-Ohio. Now, Dylan Topboten is trying to stay attached to the 13, but now he has a Ferrari between the two of them, as you can see, which is a lap down already. So some problems there. Maybe that was one of the cars involved at the start of the race. I think that's the 91. So that might have been another culprit that caused the first of the Code 80s here this afternoon. But now he needs to try and get past that Ferrari as quick as he can. That'll offer him a bit of breathing room for the cars behind. The first of which is the BMW from Luigi Russo, Minato Boffa Sim Racing. It's going to be interesting to see how the traffic is going to be managed by the LMP2s when they finally do come across them. I'm sure they're already starting to mix with some of the back markers here as they're just coming towards the carousel now. So we've just seen them go across the start-finish line. And indeed, we are now starting to see some of the back marker GT3s coming into play. That's the number 8 Corvette from Minato Boffa Sim Racing. They've got 3 cars with us here this season. And coming into turn 1 now. And a nice easy overtaking opportunity for the 2 leaders there coming through the apex. Things are going to get rather tricky now, though, as we start to enter the more twisty technical stuff, especially coming up against one of the Panica Gaming BMWs. That's the 76. And, oh, there's a bit of an incident between one of the GT3s, just one of the Team Rookie Monster cars. I think that was number 3. Had to compromise and go in between as the Team Rookie Monsters go onto the grass, trying to open the door, but just managed to keep control of that prototype car as they go too wide down into the braking zone for turn 4. Black Hawk Racing still holding on. is Team Rookie Monster going to be able to find a gap down the inside of the Ferrari. They're going to try and split it. Not able to do so. Mantis Ricus chose the right line there, taking the inside line, and was able to get past the Ferrari. Into first place they go. I think that's going to be the story of this afternoon. It's about picking the right line at the right time in order to take advantage or make an advantage over your competitor. That's exactly what Mantis did. He knew the Ferrari was going to run deep into the next braking zone and decided to go for the inside line anyway. Now, you could not put a piece of paper between these two cars. They're splitting the traffic, coming into the braking zone before the chicane. This is great stuff. As the Bros Racing Ferrari trying to get out of the way. Of course, he naturally goes over to the left-hand side as he accelerates on towards the back straight. Mantis Ricus now advantage is at least half a second coming into Sector 2. This is affecting the order quite dramatically as well. We've got the two Fair Racing Team Ferraris getting caught up by Go Team Racing. Number 4, Royal Blue Racing, had a few issues and they've gone down the order by 1 or 2 positions themselves. So the GT3 traffic, the first time they've come across this situation, starting to affect the standing of the prototypes already. On board with Go Team Racing. See how they navigate through traffic as they come in towards the carousel. Of course, the prototypes a lot more downforce available, so they can afford to go on the outside line if needed, as the number 7 does exactly just that. We've got some good battles going on in the GT3 class as well. So the 29 for Arcadius Atriba and Ballast Kiss deciding to go into a slipstream battle down towards turn 4. Gets the Ferrari in one of the ways, so that limits the opportunities available for the Porsche there that time by. And they're currently sitting in P5 at the moment. No LMP2s in sight for the top half of the GT3 order for the time being, but that is soon to change. More incidents starting to occur between the top LMP2 teams as well. It's a three-way fight for third as Black Hawk Racing lead the way. On-off Racing very close behind, followed by Max Scholten as well. There's now a gap of at least 1.5 seconds between the number 6 and the number 1, our two leading prototypes. So Mantis Ricus is able to find a gap in the traffic and take advantage as the number 6 gets caught up. And that's widened the gap and brought them back into the fray. It's now a four-way fight for second as the number 6, 66, is right on the tail of the sister car coming down the back straight. Oh, On-Off Racing having the same issues as they get stuck behind the BMW of Panica Gaming here. Not any room to manoeuvre. He's going to try down the inside of the next corner through the S's. But just look how much time that has cost them. It's at least a second or so compared to the cars that are just ahead. That's why traffic management here is going to be so vital to getting where you need to go. And in the meantime, Maurice Mell for the Go Team Racing GT3 effort here this afternoon. Really strong performance from them as they lead the pack by at least 4 seconds already. And here is second place in the form of Dylan Tarbotton.
Drive-through penalty for the car number 98 for causing a collision with car number 3.
So yeah, a penalty coming through already. We did kind of expect that that was going to happen, in all honesty. Here's Muda Hayo. So we're going to have a few issues. On-Off Racing get a bit twitchy onto the exit of turns 2. Or turns 5 rather, sorry, my apologies. Very, very slidey indeed as they tried to get the car stable enough to get back onto the back straight. And we still got this great battle in between these GT3s. Number 11 tries it once again down the inside of Luigi Russo's BMW. Not able to find that opportunity. This is for third place as well. So really good battle going on between the top podium positions in the GT class. That's Royal Blue Racing trying to switch in between the traffic. They're currently sitting in 8th place, so they are pretty much where they qualified, but they seem to be struggling in these traffic conditions. Just taking it easy, making sure they get to the checkered flag, so there's nothing wrong with that at all. But the gap to the next car for them is around 4 seconds now, and in fact Manchester Rica's the gap now up to 2.5 seconds over the number 6 of Blackhawk Racing. So they're starting to really push that car and try and make as much of an advantage as they can in the clear air while they've got it. These three cars, we've got a two-wide situation between Luigi Russo and RSA Sim Races. He will have the inside line. That's exactly where you want to place the car there. So RSA Sim Races going onto the grass as well, so it gets worse for them. They lose 2 positions in 2 corners, and down into 4th place they go. So the order now is Go Team Racing, Manatsubo for Sim Racing, number 26, and Trax VR. Very good positioning of the car there by Luigi Russo. Went onto the outside line for the entry into turn 4. Braked late, and then he was alongside for the entry into the S's. That's exactly how to do it, because that way you've got the optimal line going into the next corner. There's nothing the other car can do. On board with the number 11. Fight for second place. BMW seems to get off that last corner quite well in comparison. And we've got the LMP2 traffic, slipstreams coming into effect, but that's the same again. Oh, very snappy steering coming from the BMW ahead. He's trying to have a little peep down the inside. And BMW goes deep into the corner to compensate for that. Doesn't want to get caught in any incidents early on. All the cars coming over the brow of the hill now. This battle's going on absolutely everywhere, I have to admit, because even Cliff van der Vin's under pressure from the number 7 as well, from Go Team Racing. And that is for 6th place in class. So the LMP2s are starting to find themselves a bit of free real estate right now. So plenty of room to manoeuvre once again as the GT3 traffic is all coming through the carousel now. So they've got another potentially 10 to 15 minutes worth of racing where they don't see the GT3s again. So this is really important for them. It's about slowing things down for when you get to the GT3 traffic, and then absolutely going into sprint mode when you get that free open space ahead. Sister cars just... Oh, and there's an incident. Oh, yeah, that's a big tank slapper there for the Fair Racing team. Cliff van der Vin just coming over the brow of the hill. The elevation change, unsettling the rear of the car. Unfortunately, the number 7 was too close behind, had nowhere to go, and absolutely swiped the front of that prototype car. Doesn't look like there's too much damage to the car. Just kind of turned it back into the right direction. But unfortunate things to see there. And is the number 7 going to come back in? No, they're staying back out, so obviously the damage isn't that severe. And back again for the battle for second place between Luigi Russo and Andrew Parkinson. And there are battles going on everywhere, all the way up to 29th place overall as well. We've got one DNF so far, and that's in the form of Nick Newcomb for Juicy's Motorsport Club, unfortunately. So the first casualty of this afternoon already after 20 minutes, or just shy of 20 minutes of racing here. There's a battle for second and third, battle for P5, P7, and you've got a lovely cluster of cars all the way from P20 all the way down into P26 as well, or even P29. They're all within 1 second of one another. So very close racing across the board here this afternoon. Tries to make a move on the outside. Is he going to try and repeat the process? Down the inside goes the number 11. He's forcing the issue, the same as what the BMW did just a few moments ago on Dylan Tarboton in the other Corvette. And he's made the move. So Andrew Parkinson learning from the competition ahead, placing the car exactly where it needed to be. And that is second place there for Trax VR Racing. Now he needs to focus. The next few laps are his. He's got no traffic ahead and no LMP2s from behind for at least another 3 to 4 laps. So it's all about focusing and perfecting those corners. In fact, this will be their best result all season if they manage to come home exactly where they are now. So it'll be a very strong performance for the team. And yeah, definitely their best performance. Now, just quickly have a look elsewhere because there are battles going on all over the place. This is the battle for P5. This is Panica Gaming, Arcadius Retriever behind the wheel, and Velasquez in the first of the Porsches here in the order. They are actually doing very well this season. They are currently sitting in second place, 5 points behind the Bros Racing Ferrari, who are currently leading with 130. So if Simco can bring home the points, then they will take the lead of the championship. As it seems the 98 is running into some problems this afternoon. Not too sure where they are. They're in P27 at the moment. So not a good afternoon for them. Nicholas Lemoyne under pressure from Max Scholten for the Fair Racing team. This is for 4th place. And starting to see some GT3 traffic up ahead once again. So that's going to affect the grand scheme of things. And on the roof camera here for On-Off Racing. Just got through in the nick of time. Max Scholten, on the other hand, not an opportunity that he can take, as it would have resulted in a big incident, no doubt. But that's exactly what Nicholas de Moy needed to widen that gap. And Mark Veit, the Black Hawk Racing car sitting in 3rd, now has him within his rear view mirror. 1.2 seconds between these guys coming down into Sector 2. The number 10, which is the SWMD Ajax Racing team, currently performing
Driver
in
penalty for car number
P8.
2 for causing a collision with the number 10.
That was very loud by race control there. But another penalty for the number 2 this time, which is the sister car for the Rocky Monster team, or Team Rookie Monsters. So not a good afternoon for them. They're currently sitting in 8th place. So they're going to go further down the order with the likes of Luca Gray and the number 4 from Royal Blue Racing taking advantage of that. But let's go back to this battle between the GT3s as they come through the chicane. And the number 10 Ajax Racing Corvette trying to hold off Dennis Castillo Sims, who are championship leaders here after round 4 at Spa. Just further back, we've got a good gaggle of 4 cars from 21st through to 24th. That's for P10. As they all come down into the second sector. And we've got Julian Munsters in that gorgeously painted Bentley, the only one that's in the roster for this season. And they've been performing pretty well in the grand scheme of things. They had a rough start to the season, but Houdini Racing now up into P7 after scoring 22 points last round, so 48 in total. Of course, only one round of points available here this afternoon. Typically, we do double points for the 6-hour events, but it's only 3 hours here at Mid-Ohio. So the only points you get are once you get to the checkered flag. Just got onto the curbing a bit too aggressively. That unsettled the rears, started spinning, and that's compromised the run down towards the final, turn 4 now. Let's head back towards the LMP2 fight for third place as On-Off Racing really start to close up towards Mark Vite. It's a 3-way battle here for third, as you've got the 33 from Fair Racing Team close behind as well. So that's Max Scholten in charge of that particular machine. And all coming into the carousel. Having to deal with some GT3 traffic. No doubt that's what's brought them all together in that short space of time. We're just approaching the first half hour of racing completed. Here comes On-Off Racing. Looks this morning having a little peek down the inside. Just saw that little wiggle as he come down the back straight, just looking for space, seeing if he can close the gap just in time, but thought better of it. And we've just passed Dylan Turboton in the Corvette, so that is currently sitting in P4 at the moment. So you've got 3 more GT3s. And then they should have a clear road ahead of them. So if they want to take advantage here, On-Off Racing really need to close up that gap before they're able to sprint away into the distance. There goes the number 11, just on our camera shot there, so that is still Trax VR Racing in second place at the moment. The gap to Maurice Mell is 3.5 seconds, so the number 11 really starting to bring in those lap times, as they are actually the fastest car out on circuit at the moment. So they will be fighting for the lead if they keep up their current pace, which is a very strong performance for them, as all 3 of the LMPs get through on the back straight before entering the S's. Here's our leader, GT3. Both On-Off Racing get through. Max Scholten, though, gets stuck onto the outside line. Not ideal, and that's costing him a bit of time, but not to worry, because here comes one of the Panica Gaming BMWs, has brought them straight back together again, waiting for that undercut, and they both, all of them, catapult down onto the back straight. Here comes On-Off Racing. They get a better draft off onto the back straight. They're going too wide. He's got a bit of overlap. Is he going to be forced wide? No, just keeps it in. Here comes Max Scholten, though, sniffing blood in the water. He wants to take advantage of this situation, but not able to capitalise, and as On-Off Racing hold the inside line for the chicane. So a bit of a dramatic moment there for the battle for third. but all returned back to normality. That's how much GT3 traffic can influence the results here this afternoon. It all is about keeping patient and reading the road ahead and find a gap as best you can. Trying to get past the 99. Oh, and here comes an issue for On-Off Racing. Max Scholten trying to get past as best he can. Opportunities are limited though, as he tries to go down the inside. Nicely done for On-Off Racing. A bit aggressive, as it's not typically a corner that's good for overtaking, but he got the job done, as did Max Scholten on the exit as well. Was it Mark Veit in the 66 in the meantime has decided to leave them for dust, as the gap is up to 2.4 seconds now. Obviously taking advantage of the fact that the GT3 traffic was there. And this is what you call endurance racing, ladies and gents. It could not be any closer than this. There's so many different factors that these guys have to consider, and especially at a circuit that's as narrow as Mid-Ohio. So far it's proving to be very entertaining indeed. We're following the number 4 from Royal Blue Racing, as they are under pressure from the number 2 from Team Rookie Monsters. Royal Blue Racing had a very strong weekend at Spa, so they scored 34 points in total and 76 on the board, so that puts them in 6th place. The rest of the grid, of course, running into issues in the latter stages 2 weeks ago. No doubt they're trying to replicate that success this afternoon, make sure that they stay out of trouble. And we've actually got Nicholas Lemoyne trying to apply pressure again Max Scholten trying to apply pressure on Nicholas Lemoyne once again. 0.1 second as they came through the middle sector. And we've got a fight for the lead between the two GT3s as well, so we've missed that. That gap has come right down as Maurice Mell starting to struggle in the early stages here. Andrew Parkinson going very deep, and he's gone wide in the carousel, and he's going to spin and hit the barrier for the pit entry. That is very bizarre indeed. What is he going to do here? That is disastrous. So I think both of them trying to go too wide into the final braking zone. For those of you that don't race regularly here at Mid-Ohio, that final corner has hardly any grip at all. It kind of dips away from you on the point of entry, and that just results in massive amounts of understeer. And if you haven't got the car settled enough at that point, then it can result in you really having a bad day and going wide onto the grass like we just saw there. So he's actually I don't know if they're going to service the car now, or if they're just going to come back out onto pit lane. So yeah, they've decided to service the car early, so that's only half an hour of racing that they've completed there. So yeah, number 11 having a bad day. So it all started so well for them, but I mean they could still come back. It's just going to change their pit strategy dramatically. They're going to have to do essentially one more pit stop than the rest of the grid now, because they've only done half an hour of racing. It's a 2-stop strategy for everyone else in the GT3 category. They're still going to have to change now, which will take them to 1.5 hours, and then another one in with 30 minutes remaining, essentially. Now we've got this battle underway between Arkadiusz Triba and Balatskis for the Simco Porsche. This is now for 4th place after Andrew run into his issues. And coming through the chicane, there's a stationary car. That looks like the 76. Yeah, so we've got a stationary BMW at the exit of the chicane. Doesn't look like it's been damaged at all, but he's just getting back underway now. And yeah, they're not having the best experience at Mid-Ohio this afternoon. They've just lost the next position and onto the grass again, so they may be suffering from damage here. Not too sure.
All drivers is race control, code 80 in 10 seconds.
So they seem to be having some really big issues. They're not really going back up to speed. They're in P10 at the moment, or P18 rather,
5,
sorry, at the moment.
4, 3, 2, 1, code 80 enforced.
So code 80 in effect. So I'm not too sure what's happening to the Panica Gaming BMW, but they just don't seem to be able to get back up to speed. They've got it running at least, which is the main thing, so they're able to still continue the race. But yeah, just not too sure what's going on inside the cockpit of that particular machine. Now all the teams are deciding to enter pit lane now early, so this is very intriguing because, as we just mentioned, it's going to be a two-stop strategy for most of the guys here. So do they believe that pitting now and getting that pit stop out of the way? It's even new tyres on these cars as well after just half an hour of racing. So very interesting to see that happen. Maybe the tyre degradation on the GT3s is quite dramatic, not too sure. But that's going to change up the order as they all go by. And here come the prototypes as well. This is perfect news for them, of course.
Drivers, prepare for green flag in 10 seconds.
This is perfect news for the prototypes, especially those leading, because they are due to come into the pits maybe in the next 10 minutes or so, so they can just short stop and save time
4,
in the pit lane.
3, 2, 1, green, green, green.
Back to racing again. So Mark White goes up into second place now, so they've decided to stay out and not do an early pit stop. Ones that did take the offer, though, was the number 6 Black Hawk Racing Machine, who are now sitting in P5. So they're obviously thinking of the long game here, deciding to come into the pits early. Mantis Ricus, on the other hand, deciding to opt to stay out for the final 10 minutes of this particular stint. And the new order of things, where's the first of the GT3s? Luigi Russo currently leads in the GT category for Minato Boffa Sim Racing. So Go Team Racing deciding to go into pit lane. They're currently sitting in P6. So going down the order, but that's very interesting. I wasn't expecting a lot of people to take that offer once that Code 80 was announced from the 76 having issues, because they've still got at least another half an hour's worth of fuel inside those GT cars before they run on fumes. So I don't imagine saving that much time. It's a very short pit lane at Mid-Ohio, having said that, so maybe they believe that they're going to save time by going to a 3-stop strategy. Very bizarre. Now we have this battle between Luca Gray and Jerikat for the Royal Blue Racing prototype machine. This is for 7th place in class. And we do have a battle for the lead here between our two prototype leaders, Mark White and Mantis Ricus, for Team Rookie Monsters as they enter Sector 3. Trying to apply pressure, find the gap as the number 10 Corvette stays firmly out of the way. Oh, another mistake for Mantis Ricus there as they go into the chicane. Very nearly made contact. That was a very that was definitely a letterbox gap, wasn't it? There was hardly any space between those two as he tried to make sure that the number 66 didn't get by before the chicane, but he just managed to read that perfectly. And that's another lead change here in the prototype class. Mark Veit and Black Hawk Racing leading as we enter the second or half of the first hour. Now some more GT3 traffic. It's all about reading the road ahead, of course. We've already mentioned this several times this afternoon already. And so far, Mark Veit is choosing right, or making the right decisions, as Mantis Ricus gets very sideways coming into turn 11. Very big moment there. just managed to hold on to the car as they entered Thunder Valley. That's going to heat up the rear tyres quite considerably, and our Factor 2 tyre temperature is vital to keeping those cars stable. As Dylan Tarboton widens the door for Mantis Ricus to go through into the chicane. Further back, we've got another battle between Roman in the number 6 and Max Scholten. I believe we just missed that overtake, as he's already back up into P4, which of course he was in P6, exiting pit lane. So definitely on a charge is the number 6. Trying to get back up into a strong position after his first of 3 pit stops. Moving further back down the order, we've got a great battle between the GT3s once again. Julian Munster's in the 77 from Houdini Racing, going wheel to wheel with the 13 from Go Team Racing. They've come into the pits early. And going down into turn 4, braking heavily, he's going to have the opportunity to overtake it, which he does. Simcoe also want to take advantage, but not close enough to do so in the 18. And looking for another opportunity if possible. That Bentley is very wide indeed here at Mid-Ohio, probably even more so than usual. Coming over the hill, the Porsche trying to look left and right, trying to push them off balance. On board with the Porsche now. Bit of oversteer coming from the Bentley, but nicely turned in through the carousel. And you've got Juice's Motorsport Club coming in between them. And here comes the opportunity that Blas has been looking for. Down into... Oh, there's another one as well from Royal Blue Racing. Both sending it through before the chicane. And Houdini Racing losing out on that position as well. So now he's sitting in P8 in class for the Simcoe Porsche. Now, Maurice Mel for Go Team Racing is really starting to put down some solid lap times, as he's already overtaken Simon Marshall for the 73 Team Rookie Monster machine. And yeah, he's already up into P6 in class, with Luigi Russo still leading just up the road by around 30 seconds after that pit stop. He's got about 4 seconds before he comes across Danielle, which is the next competitive car. And we still got this fight between Julian Munsters and Bradley Sellers now, the sister car for Team Rookie Monsters, these 2 Ferraris that they've entered into the championship alongside their prototypes. And they are also starting to apply pressure. And you've also got a battle just up the road as well between the other of the Team Rookie Monster Ferraris. This time it's Ballas Kiss starting to overtake as well. So a lot of pressure being applied up and down the order, especially in the GT3 class. Got 2 battles going on simultaneously. We've also got 2 battles for second in the prototype class. Nicholas Lemoyne trying to apply pressure to Mantis Ricus. This is going to stay with the Porsche here as he comes down into the braking zone at turn 4, looking down the inside. Is he going to make the move? No, he's going to think better of it, wait for another opportunity. And also, just adding on to the battles in the prototype class, Luca Gray and the Royal Blue Racing car, they're fighting in P7 in the prototype class as well. So it's all happening up and down the order. This is definitely the battle to watch though, as it seems to be the closest for the time being. Only 0.2 seconds between the 2 machines. On board with the Porsche once again, coming in towards the carousel. Definitely got a better exit speed there, but the Ferrari still holding on before the braking zone into turn 1. He's going to try and force the issue. Last of the late breakers as he gets down into the inside, and the move is done. Great driving there from Velasquez, and the Simco driver Simon Marshall did everything he could, but he, you know, being on the outside line, you've got more room to play with, but just didn't have that exit speed that he desired. Another battle starting to emerge for 5th in class. This is the 111 BMW against our previous leader, Maurice Mell, for Go Team Racing. Trying to go on the outside line. That's exactly where you want to be. Oh, and contact made between the two of them. I'm not too sure what to make of that. I'd need to see that once again. But yeah, they both make contact. Luckily, nobody loses control. And Maurice Mell looking for another opportunity now on the exit of turn 9.
Drive-through penalty for car number 4 for gaining time unfairly under a code 80.
So yeah, number 4 coming into the pit lane for code 80 infringement. So that's a new one. Usually they're quite well behaved, so I don't think it'll be on purpose, but who knows. Oh, and a big moment. Whoa, that was a huge moment between the 13 and 11. Maybe misjudged the front. So that is Go Team Racing into the wall alongside the 111. It looked to me that he was trying to get the overspeed and make some ground on the acceleration of the exit at the final corner, but just maybe misjudged that by a smidge. And oh, he doesn't know he's got no rear wings for the number 111, so that is going to be, yes, definitely going to be a code 80, no doubt, as he will need to come back at very slow speed.
Control, code 80 in 10 seconds.
So that was a huge moment. I think that was a misjudgment from the
5,
another big moment
4,
there.
3, 2, 1. Code 80 enforced.
Yeah, so the BMW definitely not going slow enough to get back in one piece. But yeah, that's a very sad moment. I was expecting a really good battle there.
111, can you drop back so you can let the 79 ahead of you, please?
But no doubt that will be reviewed by race control, and that could be the end of the 13's day in terms of finding a potential win. Of course, they're trying to make up some ground to get back into the fighting position that they had previously before that code 80. And now would be a good time for some of the other GT3s to come into pit lane as well, of course, because not all of them decided to come in to service their cars. So we're just going to wait for the BMW to safely get back home, I presume. And Luna Racing have DNF'd. That is a huge development because they were sitting in 3rd on the standings with 100 points. So 98, Luna Racing not able to get to the finish here this afternoon. And that means that for the 2nd time in a row, they DNF'd at Spa as well. So further bad news for the team. And they're going to fall further down the championship standings as a result. Mantis Rikas has some work to do once we go back to racing, because the on-off racing team, Nicholas de Moyne, only 1 second behind. Of course, the BMW will soon disappear as it enters pit lane for repairs. And on-off racing coming into pit lane.
All drivers prepare for green flag in 10 seconds. Five, 4, 3, 2, 1. Green, green, green.
So there we have it. There goes Mantis Rikas back on the throttle once again. And on-off racing opting to come into the pits now. And we have this battle between Simco and the number 10. This is for, I believe it's P4 in class, so really strong performance from the number 10 this time by. They haven't actually come into the pit lane though, whereas I'm not sure about the number 19 Porsche either, so something to consider. But they're now up into 3rd place there for the Simco, and if they do still need to come into pit lane, it will be done in the next 15 or so minutes. Back to racing speed for these guys. 57 from Cliff van der Veen and Luca Gray going at it for 6th place in class. In the meantime, Go Team Racing are 1 lap down off our leaders after coming into the pits early, so obviously struggling with some performance there. Of course, they were involved in that small incident in turn 6 or 7 with one of the Fair Racing teams, so they may have suffered a bit more damage compared to the other 57 car. Going further back, we've got this great battle between these two Corvettes as well. This is the number 11, Andrew Parkinson, still behind the wheel for Trax VR Racing, going up against the number 8 for Minato Boffa Sim Racing. It's going to be for 10th place in class. And we know the number 11 came into the pits early as well when we had the previous Code 80. So I'm still waiting to see how that strategy is going to play out for those that did decide to come in at the half-an-hour mark. But we'll have to wait and see if that's going to be faster or not. On board with Andrew as he comes down into turns 4. I don't think it's close enough this time by to make the move. Has a little peep, but nothing too serious. Corvette seems to be very strong here at Mid-Ohio as well. Seems to just generate a bit more turning compared to the other cars. Oh, and the 98 had a connection lost as well. So Luna Racing, Adam behind the wheel. Oh, and it's a great move there by the number 11 coming down into the braking zone at the carousel. Just took the inside line. There's a bit of a bump and barging going on, but nothing too drastic, and was able to make the move. So that is them now into the top 10 positions. And I must say, the Trax VR team really are starting to be a regular performer in the top end of the grid now, which is really nice to see. They definitely put a lot of effort into these weekends. Oh, and there's a big moment here for the number 2. Don't really know what he expected to happen there. Tried to go down the inside. The Porsche was already hugging the apex at that point, and yeah, just got spun around by the car behind, which was, I believe, Max Scholten for the Fair Racing team. Of course, he had nowhere to go either. So, yeah, very tricky conditions here at Mid-Ohio. We already said this before the race started, that it was going to be all about traffic management. And unfortunately, the number 2 not doing too great in these conditions, currently sitting in P8 for the prototypes. Another battle in the mix of the GT class. This is once again Team Simcoe and Carl Wright, part of the Ajax Racing team. And they've just been separated by the number 1 from the Team Rookie Monsters. That's still being driven by Mantis Rikas at the moment, leading the way by at least 8 seconds now, which is a very strong performance. Now Blackhawk Racing sitting comfortably in 2nd, with a quite large gap to their sister car, who is in 3rd. I'm not too sure what's happened to the 13. Maurice Mel is currently sitting in P23. So that's quite far down the order. It's actually 13th place. This is the closest battle we have on track, just 0.2 seconds between these guys at the moment. Now the 19, of course, is quite high up in the standings. They're currently sitting in 4th place with 84 points on the board. The number 10, however, this is going to be their strongest performance ever. They've only had 2 points in the championship so far, which is hard to believe considering that they are currently sitting in P4 at the moment, but they always seem to run into an issue some way or another. But if they can perform, this will be their best finish for the season. For whatever reason, they really seem to be enjoying Mid-Ohio, or well suited to it. And yeah, in the top 5 for now. I think that's one of the good things about choosing a circuit that's not typically used as well, because this, as I say, this is the first time that WSCC has ever gone to Mid-Ohio. It's not a circuit that is typically used for multi-class racing. Of course, you have the Michelin Pilot Challenge in real life that visits here for some like touring car multi-class racing, but not typically prototypes that come here. So I think it's good to have something that's a bit irregular, something that chucks people out of their comfort zone, and that allows some of the back markers to really come into the top 10 and throw things adrift somewhat. And I think that's exactly what we're seeing here this afternoon. Some really teams that hadn't had the best of luck, shall we say, at the start of the season, really starting to shine for round 5 as we enter the halfway point here of the championship. Another battle between Dennis Castillo-Sims. These guys are the championship leaders at the moment, and they've got the 29 Panica Gaming BMW close behind. This is for P5, I believe. Oh, my apologies, it's P7 in class as they come through the carousel. A bit of a gap starting to emerge as the Ferrari gets a bit of a better turn in there. Understeer may be coming into play as you get that dirty air from the car ahead. I have to say, most of the action that we've got here this afternoon appears to be coming from the GT3 category. LMP2 wise, they seem to be quite spread out. Our leading LMP2, Mantis Ricus, is at least 5 seconds ahead, whereas the next car behind is at least 21 seconds. Of course, pit stops accounted for. That may be the reason why. But certainly, number 6 is on a charge because, of course, he is now within striking distance of the number 1. Gap is up to 5 seconds. And he's already come into the pits not long ago as well. So, certainly something to bear in mind, to keep an eye on. Number 8 under pressure from Bradley Sellers for Team Rookie Monsters. Into the keyhole, which is turns 5, and he's got a great run coming onto the back straight. Good overtaking opportunity potentially coming into play here. Coming down the inside line, he's going to do braking, and he's got the inside line. However, the number 8 is going to go deep into the corner. That could defend on the inside for the next corner, and not able to do so. They're still trying to have at it though, down the inside for the S's. Turns 6 and 7, and the Corvette lets him through. Going onto the outside line, just couldn't get the traction down. And great overtaking opportunity there, and easily, or very well done. Oh no, more bad news for Juicy's Motorsport Club. That's their second car in the pit lane. It doesn't look like there's any life inside. Maybe another disconnection, or maybe some damage being caused to that particular machine. So yeah, that's not the afternoon that they were looking for. So that's our 4th DNF so far. Another one is Jeff Close for the 99. Which is, I believe, Alton Motorsport. They're not having a good day, so that leaves our total running cars down to 30 out of 33. And once again, we've seen this before, haven't we? Manat Boffisim Racing and Go Team Racing. very nearly went onto the grass, and he has got a bit of oversteer. Nicely held by Morris Mel as he comes into the carousel. Yeah, just got into the grass onto the turning point of turns 11. That nearly caused a very big spin, but nicely controlled to slow the car down in the nick of time. On-off Racing coming through in the mix, as is Royal Blue Racing as well. As they come down towards the chicane, the number 8 getting out of the way as they come into the chicane. Here comes Go Team Racing, and a bit of a bump, bit of a barge, and yeah, that was not great, I have to say. And up into the back straight, so he's made P12, but has caused a bit of damage to both the cars, no doubt. Now we've got both Simco Porsches here. And separating them is the number 10 from Carl Wright, as they come to complete their next lap. And we're just coming to the end of the first hour here. And 1/3 of racing complete this afternoon.
Drive-through penalty for car number 10 for collision under code 80.
Ah, so that's the number 10. So that's actually Carl Wright, the car behind, causing collision under code 80, which is a bit bizarre. So this will be good news for the 18 Simco machine, as they will gain another position. Of course, these guys did come into the pits early, as already mentioned. I'm not too sure if the 19 did, though. That's the question, because of course the sister car did start behind them, but now they're ahead of them. And we'll soon find out in the next few laps or so, because their fuel tank on the GT cars lasts approximately an hour. Maybe a bit longer here, because there aren't as many straights as elsewhere. And we've got the 26 Manhattan Buffer Sim Racing in pit lane. So that is your first of the GT3s coming in at the end of the hour. Houdini Racing going through in that 77 Bentley, which always sounds wonderful. Let's have a quick look into the prototype side of things. So Manchester is still leading the way for Team Ricky Monsters. They're on track to extend the championship at this rate if nothing goes wrong. Touch wood, in case they're listening on the live stream. Of course, I didn't say anything, because whenever I seem to say something, something always goes wrong. It always seems to be the pattern that is repeated here on our live streams, which is whenever Matt says something about a certain car, if it's doing well, then in about 10 minutes time they will crash into something. But yeah, about 10 seconds behind, we have Black Hawk Racing in the form of the number 6. So they're doing very well. That time's coming in. It's a 1:13.8, which is about a second and a half slower than what Mantis did that last time by. However, of course, with all the GT3s everywhere that we've got this afternoon, that could be why that happened, of course. Now, of course, number 6 did take pole position, so they'll have that knowledge in their pocket. They'll know that they are technically the faster of the cars. So maybe give them a bit of confidence as the race unfolds going forward. They know exactly what they can get away with and know that they have the pace to be the fastest. Just a bit of a confidence boost, of course. Car right in the meantime. Going off into the barrier. And I don't think they've served their penalty either, which is interesting. So looks like they may be at the carousel now. Not too sure, but in the meantime, Velasquez has gone through. Yeah, so they're coming into pit lane, so they just outbrake themselves because you want that wider line on the entry. Can be very tricky, as I already mentioned. The corner dips away from the driver, and that creates some understeer and a lack of grip, so it does easily send you wide. But he's just performed his drive through, which has been elongated by that small mistake. So lost a lot more time than what they were hoping to. And no doubt they'll have to come into pit lane very shortly as well to top that off. Now Maurice Mell is trying to regain some lost ground after that small collision with one of the Minato Boffin. They seem to have bad luck when coming across these blue BMWs and Corvettes from Minato Boffin Racing. I think every time they've come across one, they've made contact with one another. So they've got a nice open bit of circuit for them. Maurice Mell still behind the wheel, and I believe they are in P10, I think, from what we previously saw. Yes, it is. So P10 in class at the moment. They were, of course, leading the race, so we're expecting some of the GT3s to come in very shortly, and we'll see where they decide to settle in the grand scheme of things. In the meantime, Christopher Turboten close behind after his pit stop, so he's changed over from Dylan. And they are fighting for position, of course. Only 1 second between these two. Now, the RSA Sim Racing Corvette is actually very competitive here this afternoon as well. So, Go Team Racing might find it a bit difficult to get past or get by in the nick of time as one of the... Is that Juicy's Motorsport Club coming through? Yes, it is. So, that is good news because the number 15 ran into issues earlier on in this race. And Luca Gray had another disconnection, so we're back to just 3 DNFs now, which is 2 of them are DCs, and then I think the 99 ran into problems or an accident somewhere along the lines. In the meantime, we've got this battle between Simon Marshall and Andrew Parkinson. This is for P6 in class. And we already know that the number 11 came into the pits early, and that is very fast indeed. They were actually catching our leaders at the time before they had a small moment at the carousel. There seems to be a lot of incidents occurring in the same typical places that you would come to expect. On board with Andrew now as he comes across the start-finish line. On goes by the number 7 prototype from Go Team Racing. Now's the opportunity. Needs to get onto the throttle as soon as possible in order to maximise the slipstream down into turn 4. And the next car ahead is quite far away, which is Arcadis Treva in the 29. So Andrew needs to pass Simon as quickly as possible and then focus on getting those lap times. Now, the best lap for the GT3s is actually being done by Maurice Mell. 1:20.002 is the fastest lap we've got here, so it's almost about 1.2 seconds off qualifying pace. But Maurice Mell in 13, definitely the fastest car here so far, but of course far down the order. Blue flags coming into effect for the, I think that's the 90. Well, that's the Velis stock skin that's being taken today. As the Bentley for the Houdini Racing team comes into pit lane. Simon can't seem to get past this Corvette. It is blue flag situation, so he will have to yield the position or face getting a penalty.
All drivers race control, code 80 in 10 seconds.
Well, that means we've got a big off somewhere on the circuit.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Code 80 enforced.
So we've had another massive incident somewhere along the lines. Not too sure where it is. Everyone seems to be where they were before. Nobody's changing position. Got the Ferrari in pit lane, who's decided to take advantage. Actually worked out quite well for them. If that is their first pit stop of the afternoon, then that could really pay off in the grand scheme of things. All the other cars, though, looking on the track map, there doesn't seem to be anyone that's actually stationary as far as I can see. So, very strange indeed. Yeah, I'm not seeing any huge incident here, unfortunately. But I'm sure race control will clear us and get us back to racing conditions in a short moment's time. All the cars are still going by as well, so nobody's entered the pit lane other than the 19, which are due to come into the pits anyway. So that's actually really paid off for the 19. Oh, it was the 19 that had an off into the barriers at the chicane, so thank you for that information from race director there.
Race control, green flag in 10 seconds.
So it was the 19 that went off, although they still need to come into the pits anyway, so that won't be a great loss for them, although the repairs will no doubt put them down the order.
3, 2, 1, green.
Back to racing conditions then, and Simon Marshall got a good head start against Andrew Parkinson, who enters pit lane. So another pit stop being made there by these guys. Don't blame them for that, because they are going to have to do another pit stop before the end of this race anyway, so you may as well get it out of the way nice and early. They are taking new tyres as well, which, I mean, those tyres have already been changed twice, and that's only after an hour of racing. So I saw the jacks on the back of the car going up, so that is really bizarre. Only half an hour worth of racing on both sets for them there. But they are still able to continue racing, which is a good thing for the 19. And we've got a battle starting to emerge in the prototype class now. It's been a while since we've seen one of these. It's mostly been the GT3s, and here comes Fair Team Racing coming down the outside line. Cliff van der Veen very aggressive, and that's into the barrier. Big way for the number 2. I think there was just a bit of wheel spin coming over the brow of the hill, and yeah, just couldn't catch that back. That was Lars behind the wheel on that particular occasion, and he's just lost his rear wing by reversing.
Drivers, race control, code 80 in 10 seconds.
He's just going to try and get back underway as best he can. I mean, he's going to have to come back into pit lane And
5,
yeah, massive spin
4,
again. Frustration
3,
coming into play, I
2,
think.
1. Code 18 enforced.
So yeah, that was unfortunate. I think that would need to be reviewed at some point just to see if any contact was made. But
The driver's green flag in 10 seconds.
from my first impressions, at least from that particular angle, because he was looking dead on, I think it was just both cars trying to get on the throttle as quickly as possible.
4, 3, 2, 1. Green, green, green.
And just not working out as well as they intended. But in the meantime, the 13 is being chased rather, sorry, by Christopher Terboten for the RSA Sim Racing team, and directly ahead of them they've got Bradley Sellers by a few seconds, so the 13 is going to have to do a lot of work to catch up. We've got another battle between the number 11 and the number 10, who have served their penalty and their pit stop, it seems. And the number 11, of course, has just come into the pit lane. So they've only done half an hour each time. So they've done 2 stops in the first hour. And now they're going to do one more stop, I believe, at least. They're going to do one final stop with 1 hour remaining. And that should hopefully bring them to the end of the race. So doing that extra pit stop under Code 80 may have been a stroke of genius. But only time will tell. Our leading prototype, Manta Shrika, still in charge for Team Rookie Monsters, and it's all going splendidly well for them. They've got 14 seconds ahead of the competition, which is still the number 6 from Black Hawk Racing. They're still doing pretty much the same lap times, but it's just the traffic conditions that are extending the gap
20
for
seconds
them.
stop and go for car number 57 for causing a collision with the number 2.
So the 57, a massive penalty there for them. So of course we didn't get to see the best angle of that particular accident, but that is a massive penalty they're going to receive. And they're currently sitting in P6 at the moment. And the number 2's back out on track in the meantime in P9. And they're actually 3 laps down off our leaders, so they definitely haven't had the best afternoon. Another battle between Milan Saran and Dennis Castillo Sims. Oh, and Dennis Castillo goes off. Very bizarre. That is a very strange accident if I ever saw one. And now he's got pressure from behind. That's the Minato Boffa Sim Racing car. And they seem to be back underway once again, this time in P8 in class, but now they've got the number 3, the number 13, and the 69 from RSA Sim Races. This is a really long train of cars behind them. And now number 13 braces itself as it comes across one of the BMWs. Trying to get the wide line cut back as best as he can. And blue flag situation in effect here as they come down across the start-finish line. Dylan Terboten trying to go through and follow as best he can, but not able to do so. Oh, just keeps it off the grass just by a slither. Nicely done there. Knew exactly how wide the car was and how much speed he was carrying, and didn't lose too much time. So we have, at this moment, 6 cars, all with gaps of around 1 second between them. So Milan Saran is doing battle with the 26, that's 1.5 seconds, and then Dennis Castilla-Sims is holding back 4 cars, all within 1 second as well. So in the second hour of this race, it's really starting to heat up in the GT class, that's for sure. Once again touching the grass before entering the carousel. He's trying to chase down Bradley Sellers in the car ahead, number 3 for Team Rookie Monsters. Bit of a twitchy moment for the Ferrari ahead. That is the 88, which is the sister Ferrari for the Bros Racing team. Takes the wide line to allow them through because it is a blue flag situation, but that has allowed the 13 to really attach itself onto the back end of that Ferrari number 3. Now using the slipstream down towards turn 4. Is he going to be close enough to make a move? He's looking down the inside. Not close enough. Nearly touches the grass as he tries to hug back into that slipstream. Really looking fast in these current conditions. There is the number 13, so expect that car to go up the order in the next few hours. This is turning out to be one of the best races this season, that's for sure. There's action just happening absolutely everywhere. It's almost like it reminds me of Road Atlanta in the same kind of way that there's limited opportunities, there's traffic management like you would not believe, and it's absolutely brilliant. You know, it's all about making the right call at the right time, and it's creating these outstanding battles. Nobody is able to just get away on pure pace alone. They need to make the right calls, and that is why we're seeing such a huge array of different cars
30
up
seconds
and down the order.
For car number 94 for multiple blue flag infringements. Any more infringements will result in a disqualification. You have been warned.
So 94 having blue flag infringement, so that is, I think that's the first time we've ever had that. So the abuse, just for those that don't know what that means, or if you're watching for the first time and you don't know what multi-class racing is about, so blue flag means that there's a faster car behind. Typically they're a lap ahead of you, and therefore you're not fighting for position, and you need to yield and let the faster car behind go through. So if you're getting a warning from race control, it means that you're ignoring blue flags for a long period of time against several individual cars. So, you know, very rarely do we see that it's on a regular basis. Usually it's just a slap on the wrist and like, stop doing that and behave yourself, and then after that it's fine. But if you're still getting penalties for it, then it must be really bad. Anyway, back to the racing, because Maurice Mell is still trying to catch up to the number 3. Further ahead, we've got Milan Saran. It's a 3-way battle for this particular position. The Ferrari stuck in the middle with Simon Marshall behind the wheel. And this is for 3rd place. So really, these different pit stop strategies are really designed to chuck the order all over the place. I don't really know who is where in the grand scheme of things after they've all decided to do their own little tactics. So for the meantime, it is Milan Saran in 2nd place. Arcadius Retriever still leading the way for Panica Gaming, so they've done really well. And we've got Andrea Nivoli, or I've completely butchered that name, I apologise, but the 26 from Minato Buffer Sim Racing, flashing his headlights saying, come on, let me through. Milan Saran really starting to widen that gap now as he takes home 2nd place across the start-finish line. So just gave the overlay a quick refresh there, and we've suddenly skipped about 10 minutes worth of racing because it was so outdated. I noticed that Milan Saran was in the pit lane, even though we was watching him go by the start-finish line, so top stuff. But that's now been rectified. Here comes Bradley Sellers down the back straight, giving chase is Morris Mell for Go Team Racing. Once more, we've seen this. Which way is he going to do? Obviously, they prefer to go down the outside line if possible. And he's going for the inside, diving down into turns 4. Nice move there, simple stuff. Best overtaking opportunity available here today. So it's another position for the 13. Now it's Christopher's turn. He's going to be able to close up to the back end of that Ferrari if possible. Oh, bit of a moment there for the 69. Trying to look down into the inside of the carousel, but that door closed very quickly indeed. So no contact made, but waits for another opportunity. That's allowed the 13 to escape down the road though. Gap already up to 1.5 seconds. Further up the road, 2 Ferraris going wheel to wheel. Dennis Castillo-Sims down to the braking zone at turn 4. This is for 4th place in class, so really strong performance in the latter stages or the halfway point of this race. At the moment we have 4 battles going on. Yeah, we've got 4 battles currently ongoing at the moment. That is absolutely incredible. And of course we still... Ooh, bit of a moment there between the 2 Ferraris trying to occupy the same piece of tarmac. Luckily nothing came of that. Yeah, we've got this battle here for P4 in class. Then there's one for P6, one for 8th place in GT3, and then one all the way down the back of the order for 26th and 7th. And I don't know what position that is in the grand scheme of things, so my brain can't work it out. On board with Dennis Castillo-Sims. Looking for an opportunity on the start finish line. Not going to be close enough, I don't think, but he's definitely closer this time by than what he was previously. He's got one of the Black Hawk Racing cars coming through at the same time, so that kind of cost him a bit. Ooh, bold stuff coming from the number 6 as he tried to go down the inside of the chicane. I know he's just lost a tiny bit of ground in the grand scheme of things there as a result, but he's still within striking distance, 0.2 seconds. He's trying to make the move down the inside, which he does. And he's going to go deep into the braking zone. The switchback happens. The Ferrari still takes that position back. Testing the limits of braking performance there inside that green Bros Racing Ferrari. Luckily, I thought he was going to be into the grass, if I'm truly honest. Amazing how he stopped that just in the nick of time. But now Simon Marshall knows exactly what lengths the Dennis is willing to go to in order to make that pass work. And we've got another battle here between the second of the Team Rookie Monster Ferraris. This time Christopher behind for RSA Sim Race is trying to get through. Touch of grass there. Corvette got turned in ever so just a tiny bit better. Can he get the slipstream down the back straight? No, he hasn't actually made hardly any ground coming into the braking zone, so we have to wait for another chance if he possibly can. In the meantime, Maurice Mell catching up to these two Ferraris fighting for second place. Oh, nearly makes contact with the number 4 from Royal Blue Racing as it tries to make its way through into the S's. Now Maurice Mell is starting to make his way back into those podium positions, of course. Currently sitting in P6 in class. And he sees Simon Marshall and Dennis ahead, and he goes off at the entry to Carousel. It's going to be a huge moment. Again, it's where he touches the grass before the entry point on the exit of turn 11. That's what's costing them. Coming out of Thunder Valley, you've got that small slither section of grass, and he just touches it every time he goes past, and that causes a slight oversteer moment. So Maurice Mell, all that hard work undone, and he's got to do it all again. In the meantime, RSA Sim Races have gone through, Bradley Sellers for Team Rookie Monsters have gone through, and that has been a complete waste of effort because he's had to do it all again. Once again, Dennis having a little look down the inside. Not close enough still. As we are now halfway through this race. Oh, a bit of a moment here for RSA Sim Races there side by side, coming out of Thunder Valley into turn 11. He's got the outside line, which means he's got the optimal position for the carousel. Good stuff there from RSA Sim Races. Christopher moving up by 1 position. Christopher already up to 0.5 seconds. Can Bradley get some ground back under the slipstream though? There's not many LMP2s in sight, so it'd be a perfect opportunity. Christopher just defending slightly to the right before entering the braking zone. Of course, we've got this battle just up ahead as well.
Well, drivers, it's race control, code 80 in 10 seconds.
And number 3 opting to go into pit lane in that moment, so very strategic
5,
ongoings
4,
here.
3, 2, 1, code 80 enforced.
So we're going to take this opportunity, ladies and gents, to have a quick break. We'll try and have a catch up about what caused the code 80 in a moment. We are now halfway through the 3 hours of Road Atlanta, and we'll be right back after this short break. Stay tuned. Afternoon, ladies and gents, and we are back live with the remaining half of the 3 hours of Mid-Ohio, which of course is the midway point of the championship here for the World Sports Car Challenge. It looks like one of the cars in the background there is having issues getting back up to racing speed. You're joining us at just after the halfway point here as we continue the action into the final stages of this afternoon's race, and we've had a few changes while we've been away. Most notably that the 79 from On-Off Racing has made its way into the front of the leaderboards here, ahead of Mantis Ricus after the last round of pit stops. Let's have a quick update as to where we are in the grandstand thing, if we can, with some mid-race results, just to get those of you that are just joining up to speed. And it is, as just mentioned, On-Off Racing with Nicholas Lemoyne still behind the wheel for the team, in first place by at least 1 second over Mantis Ricus for the Team Rookie Monster car. Just close behind is Black Hawk Racing with the number 6, who are followed by their teammates, the 66 with Dimitri Bushka behind the wheel. Running at the top 5 is Tony Jansen, and their sister car, the 57, is in 6th place. And then we have Royal Blue Racing in P7, followed by Go Team Racing in P8. Running out the last few positions is the number 2 from Team Rookie Monsters, followed by the number 10 from Juice's Motorsport Clubs, and then the last remaining position, unfortunately, Nick Newcomb having a disconnection problem in the early stages of the race. Moving over to the GT3s quickly before we continue the racing action, it's Panica Gaming that are in the lead with Arcadius Atriba behind the wheel. Milan Saran for Team Simco in the 18, doing very well by holding on to 2nd place. Then it's Malatubov for Sim Racing in 3rd, and the Bros Racing Ferrari in P4 with Dennis Castillo Sims. They are championship leaders here. And then RSA Sim Races doing very well in P5. Team Rookie Monsters with Bradley Sellers in number 3 in P6. We have Trax VR Racing with Andrew Parkinson in 7th. Houdini Racing with Julian Munsters behind the wheel in P8, followed by the number 10 with Carl Wright in 9th. And then rounding up the top 10 is Simon Marshall for Team Rookie Monsters in the final top 10 positions. Moving on to the next page, we've got Bros Racing Ferrari, the 88 in 11th. We've got the 91 in P12, followed by Manatubov Sim Racing once again in P13. 14 is the sister car with the 111, and then Go Team Racing, unfortunately DNF for those guys, so really bad news for them. Still running and no doubt going to overtake in a short moment's time is the number 80 from Shattered Windshield Racing, Panica Gaming, and the 19 Simco, followed by, lastly, the last remaining Trats VR Racing Ferrari AM. Another few DNFs on the second page, including Luna Racing, who were the previous championship leaders. Unfortunately, another disconnection from the server and unable to rejoin. So there you go. That is your current picture of things where we all stand, and we'll get straight back into the action as Nicholas Lemoyne is trying to fend off Mantis Ricus in the closing stages of the second hour here. So we're almost 2/3 of the way through, with 20 minutes remaining here before we enter the final sprint to the finish. So it is all going to kick off in the final few stages. As we've predicted, a lot happens in the prototype class as well. We've still got a few more stops, maybe 1, potentially 2, before we get to the checkered flag for the prototypes at least. GT3 wise, completely different picture. There's been a few Code 80s here this afternoon, as you can imagine. Very tight, twisty circuits such as Mid-Ohio. And a lot of the GT3s have decided to pit at very strange times, using that opportunity where everyone's doing 80 kilometers an hour and diving into pit lane to get that fuel back into the car before heading back out again. So some of the teams have opted to stay out and they're doing a 2-stop strategy. Some of the teams going for 3 stop strategies here. So it's hard to tell who is where in the grand scheme of things at this early stage of the race. Really, we're only really going to be able to tell when they finally come in for that last time. I think the latest we'll see someone come in the GT class is maybe 30 minutes to 20 minutes remaining for that last bit of splash and dash before getting to the finish. And that's when it will be game on, you know, when you come out and see where you are. Now on-off racing doing really well to widen the gap at this stage. Mantis Ricas now 2.5 seconds behind, so they've really started to up the ante. Let's have a quick look to see where they are in the pit stop side of things, if we can. So Nicholas de Moyne is currently on lap 25 of their current stint, whereas Mantis Ricas is on lap 17. Now the max stint length that we've seen is 38 laps for the LMP2s, with Nicholas de Moyne doing that. That's 38 laps of Mid-Ohio before coming in for another stop. Then he did 18 laps before another code 80 was called and he dived into pit lane. A very similar story for Mantis Ricas. He did 29 laps on his first stint, followed by 35 on his second lap, and that's when he's currently on his the one we're on now, which is on lap 17. So utilising the code 80s, trying to get as much fuel in the car while still at slow speeds and under those slow conditions. So I reckon these two cars, these two teams, are going to go down to the wire, because they're pretty much on a very identical strategy so far, provided no more code 80s are called, of course. And we do have a further battle down the order. This is Royal Blue Racing and Go Team Racing, fighting for 7th placing class as they go too wide into the braking zone at turn 4. The number 4 is defending on the inside line, but Go Team Racing hugging the inside for the next corner, which is the entry to the S's. So we've seen that happen quite a lot here this afternoon. It's preferably you want to be on the outside line for the braking zone into turn turn 6 even, sorry, and that means you have the inside for the entry for the S's, which is a lot easier to defend. One of the Ferraris starting to get in the mix, separating the two, so that's pretty much killed that battle off straight away. And just as that battle came to an end, we've got the two Fair Racing Team cars going toe to toe. They've only got 0.2 seconds between them as they come down towards turn 6. On board with Cliff van der Ven. Tony Jansen is now behind the wheel of the 33, the car ahead. Well, he's trying to find some space, not able to widen the door just as of yet though, so got to be careful, of course. They are teammates, and last thing anyone wants to do is take out all of the team's efforts in one foul swoop, so no doubt Cliff van der Ven will be considering that as well as he tries to find a gap. Just in the background we've got the two previous contenders that we was just watching, the number 7 and the number 4, as he goes down the inside into turn 1. Bold move from Royal Blue Racing there. Saw the opportunity as they both got stuck behind the Ferrari, but he just sent it into turn 1. Luckily, number 7 wise to that move and defended nicely around the outside, but this could be an opportunity for Royal Blue Racing on the long straight down Mid-Ohio here. Oh, and that's a very awkward position to be in. I think the Porsche is eager to get away with this one. That's the number 9 team, Simcoe. He's probably thinking to himself, just please go. Don't come back anytime soon. And that middle sector of the Mid-Ohio circuit, very tricky indeed to pass any of the cars here. But nicely navigated by all involved. Managed to ensure that they left enough space as Tony Jansen goes very aggressively into the chicane, hits the curbing and sends that car slightly onto the grass, but manages to keep it tidy, regain some composure before continuing once again. But that means that Cliff van der Ven is the leading Fair Racing Team car as he goes into, or ahead and into that position. following the number 10 from Ajax Racing. Carl Wright still in charge, and Julian Munsters in the Bentley has just moved up by 1 in the last few moments of this race. Driving the sole Bentley for the season. And I think this is the part of the race where things are going to calm down slightly. Is one of the Ferraris off there just a short moment ago. And of course the big news is that the 13, we did have a code 80 before we went on our break. I completely forgot, but the 13 with Maurice Mell has sadly retired due to having its rear wing removed. And I'm not too sure how that happened, but we saw them crash into the barrier at their own accord. After touching the grass on the exit of Thunder Valley, which was turn 11, I believe. And ever since then, I think it's all gone a bit downhill, perhaps. So it's a very unfortunate situation for the 13. Same thing happened to them at Spa. They had a DC after a thunderstorm in the real world has disconnected them from the server. They had a huge lead over the rest of the field at the 6 hours of Spa. So not good times there in the Go Team Racing garage. Very strong team, very consistent, but not coming together here this afternoon. That means we've got about 28 cars still running. In fact, I think about 3 of the DNFs that we've got here, only 5 of them, which is quite surprising given the circuit that we're using this afternoon. About 3 of them are disconnections, I believe. So people suffering from internet issues. I mean, I know for a fact that it's snowing here in the United Kingdom, so no doubt it's problems across Europe as well of a similar nature. So we are coming to the end of the second hour now. Just 10 minutes remaining until we enter the final phase of this race, and it'll be interesting to see how many teams decide to dive into the pit lane and get a new set of tyres. And of course they all need fuel in order to get to the end, but to what extent exactly we don't know yet. So I'm expecting the number 11 to come into pit lane in a short while. They're currently sitting in I think 5th place, 6th rather. So Andrew Parkinson is still driving the car. He's been in from the start, so no doubt he'll hand over to his teammate for the final remainder of the race. And going side by side as they go over the crest of the hill, the number 10 on the inside. Not the best overtaking opportunity available. It's a closing door, as they say, as you enter the next corner, which is turn 9. Got a battle just further up the road. Here we go, side by side. Dennis Castillo-Sims, argy-bargy as they make contact on the braking zone into turn 6. The Porsche still has the inside line. He's going to make it difficult for the Ferrari as much as possible, but Dennis Castillo-Sims is still there. So good racing between the two. Coming up over the S's and into sector 3. Porsche still hanging on to that position. This is a battle for second place, and they are our 2 championship leading teams as well. Rose Racing Ferrari lead the way with 130 points on the board, whereas Team Simco have just, well, I say just, it's 125. So by all accounts, they need to stay ahead of that Ferrari, and by doing so, they will close the gap by at least 2 points going to Watkins Glen in 2 weeks' time. Now, if we know the Bros Racing team, they will not make that easy for them. heavy on the brakes there, trying to get a wide line. Can he get the car turned in? Oh, Team Rookie Monsters come into the fray and destroy that opening opportunity. I thought they were going to try and get the cutback, but it just got snatched away from them. Of course, reading the traffic behind is very important, but that's widening the gap. Bit of breathing room then for the 18 as they come down into Sector 2. In the meantime, Christopher Turboton for RSA Sim Races now entering this battle. It's going to be a three-way fight for second place. And looking at the last lap times, they are very quick indeed. Now, RSA Sim Races are very strong qualifying for them before the start of this afternoon's race, so we know that they're very pacey. And they will now be in the slipstream of Dennis ahead in that Ferrari. And it'll just be a matter of closing that gap down. We've actually got 3 battles underway up and down the order. This is the highest one we can find, or that we've got on the table at the moment. So we'll stick with these guys as much as we can. And here comes Dennis Castello Sims on Milan Saran for the Simco Porsche team. Going defensive on the inside line, side by side. The Porsche makes the Ferrari go deep into the braking zone, able to defend magnificently. Typically on the outside line is the preferred position, but Porsche just knew exactly how much road to give them and was able to hold that position nicely. So good driving there from both the teams. All this fighting in the meantime. Christopher is closing that gap down as they come through into Thunder Valley once more. Gap is down to 0.7 seconds and closing. One, two, three GT cars coming across start finish line in quick succession. Now the problem that Dennis is going to have, of course, he wants to overtake the Porsche in front, but at the same time, if he decides to make an overtaking move, he has to think about the Corvette behind, because if it doesn't work, then he could lose that position as well. All things coming into consideration now as the situation becomes more complex. Let's go to Sims once again in the slipstream, trying once more. Down onto the inside. This time outbraking himself. He manages to slow it down, and that means he's got the inside for the S's. That is really pushing the limits of the track. Just manages to keep it within the track limits. Oh my, that was spectacular stuff. Knew exactly how much he could chew off in terms of braking performance, and manages to make the move. There was a slight touch, but nothing too serious. I think that is fair game. And he knew that he had to make that move this particular lap because, of course, RSA Sim Race is looking very strong in the closing stages of the second hour. So it was all about making that move stick in the nick of time, and that means that he can focus on getting away while these two decide to fight over third place. Don't forget, if you are loving the racing that's going on here this afternoon, just give the stream a thumbs up. And if you are new to the channel as well, don't forget to give us a subscription as well. Just tick that sub button and you can catch up on all the future races that we post here at CFS as well, because this is just brilliant stuff here at Mid-Ohio. We do have a fight going on in the LMP2 class between the Team Rookie Monster Machine and the number 7 from Go Team Racing as well. So we'll keep an eye on that as best as we can. Bit of traffic coming into play. Also, the LMP2 from Blackwall Racing finding itself in a difficult position, 3 wide coming through into the carousel. So that was not ideal. They're currently sitting in 6th place. In the meantime, Charlie Rigo is taking over for On-Off Racing. Mantis Rikas once again leads for the Team Rookie Monster prototype efforts. And we're now just a few moments away from the final hour of this race. A few teams have come into the pit lane already. We're just going to stay with this battle here as RSA Sim Racers get past the 18 and up into 3rd place. So really good stuff. Now he's got to catch up to Dennis, which is just 1.3 seconds ahead. In the meantime, they've got the 80 Porsche in the way, which is the, I think it's Shattered Windshield Racing team, as they go on through. Now the gap is extending ever so slightly up to 1.0 seconds between RSA Sim Racers. They've got the Minato Buffer Sim Racing BMW in between them. Oh, a bit of an aggressive move from Blackwall Racing coming down into the S's there. Just punched the front fender of the Corvette. And luckily didn't send him into the grass. Now Milan Saran coming into the chicane. He's got another opportunity to regain some positions if he can get past the BMW. Blue flags will be out. And you've got the LMP2s starting to come through as well. That's the Go Team Racing and On-Off Racing all going by at the same time. And Milan Saran
all
following
drivers,
through.
This is race control, code 80 in 10 seconds.
Oh, and we've had another incident somewhere on circuit.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Code 80 enforced.
And that's the Panica Gaming BMW. They were having a brilliant race here. Perseus Miram for the 29. They've just come out of pit lane after doing a quick pit stop. Let's have a quick look at that if we can.
Drivers, this race control. Green flag in 10 seconds.
So he was just on the outside. He's done 8 laps in the car, so he had just conducted his final pit stop, presumably to get
5,
to the end of the race.
4, 3, 2, 1. Green, green, green.
And that was disastrous news for them because they were leading this race at the next round of pit stops, and that's all gone terribly wrong for them. So another one is in pit lane. It looks like he's still going to be able to continue at least. And in comes Dennis Castillo Sims. Christopher Taboton follows quick behind. And this will be the final pit stops here this afternoon for the teams in the GT3 class at least, before going to the end. Andrew Parkinson is also in pit lane. Oh, sorry, no, he's still out on track, so he's been able to gain some positions in the last few moments of this race, but expect the number 11 to come into pit lane very shortly, as that will be a key moment in this race to see how far down the order they are. But they go back into second place. They've been playing the long game for quite some time. They've been waiting for this moment since the start, because they came in after half an hour's worth of racing. They came in again at the end of the first hour, and this is their final of 3 stops that they're going to be making in about 5 minutes time. So definitely keep an eye out for that. We'll expect a driver change from them as well, because Andrew Parkinson has been in the car from the beginning, and all the others are still waiting to get back underway. Luigi Russo in pit lane, as is Julian Munsters. All these cars coming to their final stop at this moment of the race. And Vito Boffa for the triple one, is in pit lane. A further DNF here this afternoon. That leaves our total running to 27 cars out of 33. Another unfortunate retirement there for Manatu Boffa Sim Racing. They still got their 2 sister cars out on circuit though, so they can still continue the race. And things are starting to quieten down as we now enter the last few stages. We're following Mantis Rikus around. He's going to be in the pit lane very shortly as well, as they enter the first hour of the race. Of course, for those of you that don't watch us usually or typically, it is a 20% driver contribution in terms of the distance of the race itself. So you need to have at least 2 drivers to get to the end of the event here. Mose Benamar has got Charlie Rigo giving chase. He's about 3 seconds behind as he comes down into the next lap. Charlie Rigo's first time in the car as well this afternoon, and in no doubt taking the car to the finish. Now the LMP2s will need to come into the pit lane one more time before getting to the checker flag. Charlie Rigo's only been in for 6 laps so far this afternoon. So typically LMP2 tanks last about 40 to 50 minutes depending on what circuit we're at, and no doubt that'll be the same here for Mid-Ohio, and they'll do a final splash and dash with about 15 to 10 minutes remaining here. That's if they came into the pits on the dot, of course. Let's have a few laps on board Charlie Rigo for On-Off Racing now as he makes his way around Mid-Ohio circuit. Nice clear bit of circuit for him. Not much in the way of traffic around. You just hear Charlie Rigo changing up the gears ever so slightly, just in order to make sure he can get that good exit speed coming into the chicane here. Now, we've had a driver change for Mantis Rikas, so the number 1 has dropped back down the order into 4th place after their next pit stop. I don't still think that they'll be able to get to the finishing line. We'll have to wait and see. Of course, we know that there are a lot of engine modes inside those LMP2s, which dictates how much fuel consumption they decide to use. So maybe they'll be able to stretch 52 minutes. Not entirely sure. It'll be a stretch and a task at that. But that means that Charlie Rigo and the 79 have moved up ahead, but I'm pretty certain that they will need to come into pit lane at least one more time. We'll have to wait and see. And then we've got Moseb Ben Amar for the number 6. So Black Hawk Racing are in a 1-2 situation at the moment. And in fact, the number 6 is about to do battle with On-Off Racing. Charlie Rigo coming through into turn 1 now. 0.4 seconds between them as they start the next lap. Slipstream in effect as they come down in towards the braking zone. Turn 6 coming up in a short moment's time. Charlie Rigo has a small, tiny peep down the inside line. Knows that next lap he'll have a better opportunity though. Of course, this is the part of the race where things are going to start to heat up. We are in the closing stages. Pit stops and strategies are starting to come to a close. And we'll finally see who has the advantage in the grand scheme of things. Oh, a bit of a moment there for Moseb Ben Amar as he tries to get the car settled down at the carousel. And could it be another opportunity starting to present itself here for Charlie? Now, On-Off Racing are aware of the fact that number 1 will be behind them and that they need to keep it that way in order to close down that championship gap. Only 3 points separating these two teams in the standings. So it's very important for them to make sure that they maximise the point potential as they come down to the braking zone, entering Sector 2. Looking down the inside, not able to do so. But of course, as they battle for this position, which is 2nd place, Robert in the car behind is of course going to be closing down that gap. It's at 5 seconds at the moment as they come through into Thunder Valley once more. But it won't always be staying that way, so he has to make sure that when he does finally decide to go for the overtake, it is done in one moment alone. Just one foul swoop into that 2nd place position. We have battles in the GT3 class starting to emerge as well for P3 between Luigi Russo, the 26 from Minato Boffa Sim Racing, and Daniel Ersling for the 87 Bros Racing Ferrari. In the meantime, Milan Saran for the Porsche team all the way up into 1st place by a good margin of 48 seconds, but I suspect that that is a case of not coming into pit lane just yet, as here comes Charlie once again looking down into turn 6, still not able to widen that gap sufficiently. Bit of GT3 traffic coming into play here. They try to go around the number 3 Ferrari as well. I'm not sure who's driving that. Might still be Simon Marshall, or no, it's actually Miguel in charge of that white Ferrari team. Rookie Monsters once more. And coming through turn 1, so the gap has widened quite significantly as a result of that, up to 1 second now, and it's going to be even further now that they get stuck behind the number 8 Corvette from Minato Boffa Sim Racing. So further bad news for them. Now the number 8, since we've got it on screen, let's see where they are in the grand scheme of things. They're in P21. which I believe is 10th place. Yes, it is. So P10 for that Corvette that we just passed. And while we wait for this battle to come closer together again, let's have a quick peep inside the GT3 standings. Daniel Ersling rather, trying to catch up to Luigi Russo here. And this is going to be for 3rd place in class. He's got a bit of work to do. There's not a lot of traffic around, so it simply comes down to racing pace at this stage until we see the LMP2s coming to the mix once again. On board on the roof camera of the Ferrari. And it might be the case that potentially that the Ferrari is starting to lose a bit of pace. So not too sure. And here we go. This is another battle that's starting to come into play. So the number 1 catching back up to Charlie Rigo and Moseb Benamar. You can see him in the background there. We've got another battle for P5 and 6 between Tony Jansen and the Royal Blue Racing prototype as well. So a 3-way battle for 2nd and a 2-way battle for 5th in the prototypes. Now Charlie Rigo's really got to get past the Blackhawk Racing number 6 if he wants to have any chance at all of keeping Team Rookie Monsters at bay and getting closer in the overall standings. If he can use the number 6 as a buffer zone between the two, then they will actually take the lead of the championship by 1 point going towards round 6, which will be something for them. It'll be the first time they've led the championship this season. There's the Panica Gaming. Oh, big moment for Charlie Rigo as he goes deep into the grass area, runoff area, in the carousel. That was just too much aggression on that turn-in. Of course, maybe the GT3 threw him off ever so slightly, but that's going to be a lot of grass, a lot of heat in those tyres, and he's not going to have a lot of grip for quite some time now. In the meantime, the number 4 has gone through. So that's going to complicate things even further for the team. And no doubt they'll be kicking themselves for that small error. That's all it takes here. They've had a flawless performance all afternoon and in it for a really strong result, potentially about to take the championship lead, and just one small mistake here at Mid-Ohio and it can turn your day upside down. Now he needs to get past the number 4 as quickly as possible. And number 4 comes into pit lane, so it's got to be a slight relief there for Charlie Rigo as he comes across the start-finish line. The gap now up to 8 seconds, so that's quite significant from what they had before. In the meantime, Robert has just gone into 2nd place as the 66 comes into pit lane for what is presumably their final stop of this afternoon. So Blackhawk Racing looking strong for a closing end to this afternoon's race, but no doubt the number 1 is still going to need a small splash and dash before they get to the checkered flag here. If we have a quick look at the number 6, which is the leading prototype, it's only 2 seconds ahead, so no doubt they're fuel saving in the closing stages. They're only on lap 12 of their current stints. They've been out for longer than the number 1 has, so no doubt they'll have to come into pit lane 2 with 42 minutes remaining here. Nice battle going on here between these two, the 19 and the 76. The BMW leading for Panica Gaming. That's now the leading BMW for the team. Of course, the 26 ran into some issues. Or sorry, the 29 rather, sorry. They're still ahead actually, but 3 laps down off the leader in class, which is unfortunate. On board with the Porsche, the 19 Simco car. And BMW doesn't look like it's the most stable of platforms in the closing stages here. And he's trying to widen that gap into turn 1. It goes onto the curbing, which is a risky move here. It is very unsettling for the car. And oh, big move there from the Ferrari. What on earth is going on there? That's a blue flag situation. That wasn't even for position. So, I mean, I can understand the position of the 19 thinking that, oh, this Ferrari won't overtake because he's blue flag, so he's got to stay behind. But he sends it down into the inside of the chicane anyway. Oh dear, what a mess that was. And that's one way to ruin a on-track battle by, you know, getting involved when you shouldn't. But never mind, we've got another battle here coming into the exact same corner. This is Houdini Racing and the number 10. The Houdini taking the inside line as On-Off Racing go through at the same time. And onto the back straight they go. So they've taken that position already 0.5 seconds advantage as they were able to get down on the power quite early. And that's probably the end of that battle. Chris Rock in the Corvette at this moment in time. Another blue flag situation coming up here as they come into Thunder Valley once more. Flash of headlights from the second place BMW. That's still being driven by Luigi Russo. Now looking on the live timing, number 6 is still ahead by at least 2.5 seconds coming into sector 3, ahead of Team Ricky Monster's number 1. Third place still belongs to Charlie Rigo and On-Off Racing, although the gap now 10 seconds between the two. Number 66, they've of course done their final pit stop for this afternoon, so we won't really see where they truly belong until the other teams come in for that final splash and dash. Tony Jansen about to do battle with their sister car, with Paul Holt behind the 57, or the wheel of the 57. So we've seen this before between the two fair racing teams, but solid performance in 5th and 6th for them. And then once again, Royal Blue Racing is sitting in P7. They seem to like it there, but doing everything they can. They're about 13 seconds adrift of these guys in the top 5. We've got Velasquez in the pit lane for the final time this afternoon. One final splash and dash. back out again onto the circuit. So they reappear behind Daniel Ersling by at least 5 seconds as they come in towards the chicane. Oh, here comes Dylan Tarboton. Of course, they are still fighting for position, so the strategy has unfolded, and that's where they find themselves. So really nice job to stay ahead of the 69 RSA Sim Racing team. But here comes an opportunity as they come down the back straight towards turn 6. In fact, the Porsche is actually starting to get away in the down on the acceleration side of things. Corvette, very impressive performance under the brakes though, able to close down that gap quite nicely. Now, where is Colin Sanders? Because Colin Sanders, of course, he's been in the car for some time now.
Stop and go penalty for car number 91 for causing a collision.
So 91, that is, yeah, that's the incident that we saw at the chicane with the 19 Simco Porsche, the green one that went off into the grass. So they've got a massive penalty as a result of that. I'm not really surprised because, of course, blue flags were in effect. And he was even flashing the headlights coming into the braking zone. So, you know, I admire the efforts to try and unlap yourself, but by what must come as absolute priority is that you don't take out a car that's ahead of you by an entire lap. So, not surprised at all that they got a penalty for doing that. In the meantime, though, Dylan is trying to keep at bay Colin Sanders from Tracks VR Racing. That Corvette has performed quite strongly here this afternoon. They are currently sitting in P5 and looking strong as well. Last lap was 121, which was about 1 second faster than the cars ahead. So, in fact, the sister car is just ahead of the RSA Sim Racing Corvette with Dylan back behind the wheel. Of course, blue flags will once again be waved for that Ferrari, and no doubt he'll be getting out of the way, which he does, which is nice to see. And here comes Colin now. He's trying to apply pressure as best he can. Not able to move down the inside just as of yet, but no doubt in a strong position on the run down towards turn 6. Keeping the car steady and accelerating onto the back straight now. Looks like Dylan had a slight better exit, but here comes the slipstream coming into effect. Gaining some ground as we come down into the penultimate point of braking. Last of the late breakers, and it is Dylan that's still able to keep Colin at bay. Colin tries to get the switch back, has a bit of overlap on the right hand side, but not able to take advantage. Back into position they go in for the S's, and of course it's all single file from here on in. This is definitely starting to spice out. This is for 4th place in class, of course. Ahead, of course, we've got Daniel Ersling and Balas Kiss in the 18 Simco car. That's about 2 seconds adrift for those guys. So that is no doubt going to come to a head as well before we get to the checkered flag here this afternoon. The flashing lights at the back, I believe that they are because the headlights are on. As you can see, they've still got all their lights on. So it's almost like a... As far as I'm aware, in racing regulations, you need to have a third light alongside your braking lights and your rear tail lights. You have to have a centre light as well, which is what I had to have for mine as well. So I believe that's why they have it flashing, to indicate the centre of the car, and then you can dictate where one car ends and another begins almost, just in case you ever come across them in a too wide situation. Of course, in pitch black conditions, until you're really close, you don't know which headlights belong to who in a way, if that makes sense. I know it sounds really weird, but there is that. I think that's the reason behind it, is that they need to have a centre light to say this is the middle of the car, and then headlight to the left, headlight to the right. Here we go, a battle for second place in the GT3 category. Daniel Erstling being caught by Balatz in the green Porsche behind. Is that another penalty for the 91 that's just come through on the top of the overlay? Be very surprised if that is still the case, unless he hasn't already served it. I'm not too sure. 31 minutes still remaining here as we come down into turn 6. Got a bit of prototype traffic behind in the form of the Fair Racing team and also Team Rookie Monsters. And blue flags will be out, but of course in our rules and regs it means if you are doing battle with someone ahead, then you can choose to give it a bit more time before you decide to concede. And of course going through the mid-sector here at Mid-Ohio, that's going to happen. Oh, big moment there as the end to the carousel. So both LMP2s managed to get by. The gaps between the cars is restored. And here comes the Porsche. Switchback available. They tried to go down the inside. The Ferrari chose to defend at the last available moment. And there was a small touch from that front wing. But just enough time, enough for them to switch back positions. And here comes Black Hawk Racing coming through in first place. That's Benamar. I said Benamar. Very aggressive on the entry to the chicane. Of course, he's trying to make sure that Team Rookie Monsters don't get close enough. They're still 2 seconds adrift themselves. And this is a lot of traffic coming down the back straight now. Further up the road, we've got this battle between these two guys for 4th place. Dylan Tarboton still holding at bay. Colin Sanders for Trax VR Racing, choosing to go defensive once again. Of course, this is slowing them both down. He needs to get the move done as quickly as he can. Colin, of course, the faster of the two Corvettes, it seems, at this point of the race. And this is just great stuff. You know what? I'm absolutely loving the action here at Mid-Ohio. Sure, there's been a few moments, but we expected that to happen. Given the nature of the circuit, it's almost the same kind of atmosphere as Road Atlanta when it comes to traffic conditions. But the amount of battles that we have witnessed here so far this afternoon is absolutely staggering when in comparison to some of the other circuits here on the calendar. I mean, what does everyone else think about that? The comments regarding Mid-Ohio. Have you guys enjoyed it? Have you enjoyed racing here? And should WSCC come back in the future to this circuit? Velasquez now looking for the opportunity down the back straight. 0.2 seconds and the Porsche is strong. He's got a wonderful exit out of turn 5. And look at the overspeed that he's already generated. He's already pretty much cleared the Ferrari. It's going to be another braking match into the final corner. And here comes Rob Blue Racing into the mix as well. And that's going to force the Porsche slightly wide. And he's made the move already. He's cleared the Ferrari into turns 6 and 7 into the S's. And he's got the second place. Can Daniel Erskine come back in any way at all? Of course, coming through Sector 2, it's very difficult to find any extra ground or pace because he will now be suffering from understeer following the Porsche. One we've actually had to move further back. That's Colin Sanders and Dylan Tarboton. So they've actually exchanged positions in the final half an hour here as well. So that is Colin up into 4th place. And he's got a bit of work to do now, because all of that fighting has meant that he's lost around 4 to 5 seconds from the guys ahead. And it's about 8 seconds before he sees the back end of Daniel Ersling's Ferrari. So he needs to get his head down now, really show that pace. He was the fastest car on circuit at the time. So we'll have to wait a few laps to see what kind of lap by lap pace he's generating now after doing battle with RSA Sim Racers. Moshe Benamar is still in the lead for the Blackhawk Racing team. 27 minutes still remaining here. And I still have that hunch that's telling me that these guys will still need to come into the pit lane one final time. Gap now up to 3 seconds. Oh, and here comes Charlie Rigo. So we saw him have that small incident earlier on. And now Charlie Rigo and the On-Off Racing team, I highly suspect, will certainly need to come into the pit lane one final time before we get to the checkered flag. But they've made up at least 10 seconds over these guys, which is staggering in the short space of time that they've been provided. That was about 15-20 minutes ago that they lost 10 seconds after having that small moment going into the carousel. But somehow, I don't even know how, they've made it all back and they're now 1 second behind the number 1 machine. That is incredible pace that they're showing at this stage of the race. Last lap time was 1:14.3, and they do hold at the moment the fastest lap for the prototype class. So that is really strong performance. Slipstream really in effect now. 0.1 second. He goes for the outside line, opting for the long way round, as we've seen many times before by all the other drivers into the braking zone. That means he's going to have the outside for the S's, and he's done it. Charlie Rigo takes second place from Robert Pawn in the closing stages here for Team Ricky Monsters. What a performance that is over the brow of the hill. It's not over yet, of course. He still needs to do the work in order to get to the checkered flag, as he nearly comes into contact with the Porsche from Shattered Windshield Racing there. Robert Pawn trying to retaliate as well now as he gets a bit of an overspeed on the exit of Thunder Valley. But not able to retake that position just as of yet. "25 minutes still remaining." Really is the closing stages here. When are they going to come into pit lane though? That is the question. I really doubt they'll be able to get to the finish on the fuel that they've got. On board with the number 1. Certainly not close enough to make a move into turn 6, that's for sure. Big moment there for the number 1. A bit slidey coming into Thunder Valley over the brow of the hill. Just saw that slight bit of understeer as he carried just a bit too much speed, unfortunately. That's widened the gap. Oh, really sideways moment. You saw the car twitch left and right as he tries to get underneath the number 8 Corvette, which he does. That's gained in a bit of ground as Charlie Rigo got stuck behind the entry to the penultimate corner. I really thought the number 1 was going to spin then, though. That was a nice save there by Robert. Oh, there goes the number 2. That's a big moment for them as they go off circuit. They're currently sitting in P9. I don't think they're really fans of Mid-Ohio at this point. They've run into problem after problem so far this afternoon. But they're still going. They're still not P10, which belongs to Luca Gray. They're unfortunately having 5 laps down. Rinse and repeat of what we saw last lap here between the two leading cars. Charlie Rico in second place ahead of Robert for Team Rookie Monsters. Bit of a gap starting to emerge now, and just up the road is Moseb Benamar, the leading prototype. So no doubt Charlie Rigo will want to separate himself from the number one by using them as a buffer zone if possible. He's got to do the work first. It's at least 2 seconds before he can start to apply any form of challenge for the lead of the race itself. And there's still that question mark hanging over whether or not these guys still need to come into pit lane, of course. We know that the 66 does not need to come into pit lane because they came in with around 42 minutes remaining, if my memory recalls. So the 66, although not visually in the fight, I can guarantee you after they come into pit lane, provided they haven't run into any further issues, will still need to be fighting in the top positions potentially. So we'll see. We've got battles starting to emerge up and down the order. We've got a battle for P7 in the LMP class, and we've got a battle for the lead of GT3 as well. This is Luigi Russo leading for Minato Buffer Sim Racing now, and Velasquez is starting to gain slight bit of ground. Last lap it was at least 1.2 seconds, so really starting to up the pace, although that could be because of traffic, of course. The 26 in the meantime holds the fastest lap record here, 119.7. Whereas Velasquez only 2 tenths off that fastest time for the Simco car, but they're firmly within the slipstream now as they get caught up in some traffic with the Ferrari from Trax VR Racing there. Here comes the Porsche. The BMW gets past before the turn in at turn 6, and the Porsche braking alongside as well. So this is all coming to a close now. For the GTs, I think at least they're going to run to the end of this hour, run to the checkered flag. So this is all up for grabs now between these two teams. Bad news is it'd be bad news for Daniel Erstling in the 87 and the Bros Racing team, because they will effectively lose the championship lead going towards Watkins Glen if Team Simco are able to get past and take 5 points at the checkered flag. In fact, I believe that they will be tied for first, if I'm not mistaken. And Charlie Rigo in pit lane one final time here at Mid-Ohio. It's a quick splash and dash for On-Off Racing. And back up to racing speed once more. There's the Fair Racing team alongside as well. And we are officially 20 minutes remaining here. And now back up to racing speed. So they rejoin in P3. Black Hawk Racing 66, nowhere to be seen. So they've lost a lot of time in between when they came into the pit lane just 20 minutes ago. Potentially fuel saving, or maybe they had an off at one point or another. But let's go back to the battle for the GT3 lead. Luigi Rizzo still holding off Velasquez for the Simco Porsche team. And this race will go down to the wire. Let's have a look at the lap times for you as they just came across. So Luigi Rizzo on lap 29 of the current stip, 121.4 as they came across the timing. And Velasquez only on lap 15. So in fact, I believe maybe Manatopov for Sim Racing will have to come into the pit lane just one more time, because they're really starting to get to the end of what the maximum number I can see here. Maybe 34 laps maximum here for each car. Let's have a wait and see. There are some cars that are going for about 42 laps in the GT class. It's hard to tell, unfortunately, considering how many different strategies have unfolded. Oh, Mark Veit in the 66 saying that they run into some traffic problems. So, sorry to hear. I mean, we could have had a really strong battle for the lead of the race, but unfortunately not to be, it seems. Now, Charlie Rigo is around 23 seconds. Yeah, so 66 has lost about maybe 15 seconds in traffic over the last 20 minutes or so, which is really unfortunate. But what I'm interested to see is when the number 6 and the number 1 are going to come into pit lane with 15 minutes remaining. Luigi Rizzo doing everything he needs to so far to keep Balazs at bay. 0.8 seconds at the moment. Gap down to 0.7 as they come across the start finish line. Not too much in the way of traffic for the time being, which is good news for them. They can just focus on the task at hand. But no doubt a few LMP2s will come into the mix in the next 5 to 10 minutes. And Royal Blue Racing just sliding on through in the nick of time. Still sitting in... Oh, actually, they've made some good ground up into P5 for Royal Blue Racing. But again, we still have question marks about who needs to still come into pit lane. So that might not be 100% accurate. And here we have the battle for... Oh, I see. Sorry, my apologies. Number 6 in pit lane. So here we go. This is really important moment of this race for the prototypes. Moseb Benamar in pit lane. Back up and running once again. But where is Charlie Rigo? Because that would determine how much ground they have lost. Here comes Charlie Rigo now across the start-finish line. Black Hawk Racing already off the pit limiter and back up to racing speed. Of course, they had to take more fuel than the guys ahead, and that's going to be a gap of 2 seconds. Maybe it's coming down still, so it's 1.5 seconds coming out of pit lane. Charlie Rigo and the on-off racing team back in the fight here. Here comes the GT3s though. In fact, they're all going alongside the leading prototypes and the leading GT3s, occupying the same stretch of tarmac here at Mid-Ohio. This is a vital moment and part of the race. Here comes Blackwell Racing. They're getting caught up really badly in the GT traffic. On-off Racing 2 in a sticky situation, trying to fight past Velasquez in the Porsche, but not able to do so. He comes down over the crest of the hill through the S's. And now he's attached himself already onto the back end of Moseb Benamar. And coming through, really strong performance here from Charlie. He's going to be able to take advantage maybe on the next time they enter the long straight between turn 5 and 6. In fact, they're going to try to push the issue now onto the entry to turn 1. Blocked magnificently by Moseb Benamar in the Black Hawk car. Saw Charlie trying to make the move down the inside. Was nearly going to make it into a 3 wide situation, but it was too wise to the idea and shut that down immediately. Here we go then, slipstream in effect, 0.3 seconds between the two teams here. Charlie needs to get this done as quickly as he can if he's going to be able to fight for the lead of the race. Going down onto the outside line, not able to take advantage. Looks like he maybe was going to try to go down the inside into turn 7, but just not enough ground. Another battle coming into play here. Daniel Ersling and Colin Sanders. Final closing stages of this race with just 10 minutes remaining here in the, well, what is the midway point of the championship, round 5. On board with Colin for Trax VR Racing. Got a good entry onto turn 1. The Ferrari's starting to get away though, so maybe not as good as I thought. Very aggressive turn-in style there from Daniel Ersling ahead. As they come down into the chicane. Good exit from the Corvette. The Ferrari may be in trouble here. You've got a blue flag situation ahead with, I think that might be Vaughan Freeman behind the wheel. Yes, it is, in the number 12. They're not having the best of weekends, but they're still in the race. And the fight continues between Luigi Russo and Velasquez as well. So we've got to keep an eye on this one as best we can. And then we've got the number 1 that's going to be due in pit lane within the next few moments too. So it's all happening here, ladies and gents, in the closing stages. And I'm glad to report that it's all for top positions at the same time. Into the carousel between the two cars fighting for 3rd place in the GT category. Through the carousel once more onto the main straight. Bit of an overlap between the two entering turn 1. Ferrari able to hold it quite easily down the inside into the chicane. This is where he's going to be trying to set the car up for that drag race down the back straight, sorry. Now this time the Ferrari doesn't have the advantage of hugging behind the Ferrari that was in on the previous lap. Here comes that slipstream, closing. Although the gap is still quite large, I don't think he's being able to do it. He's still sending it. The overlap is there, but still a little tiny tap between the two, but not able to get it done. Oh, here comes the switchback through the S's. But where's he going to go from there? The road is running out, and he's running out of options. Keeping an eye on the battle for first in both the LMP2s and the GT3s. Of course, we'll keep you posted as soon as Robert goes into pit lane. We will try and get that information as quickly as we can. I think Robert's actually already come into pit lane. Let's have a quick look. We might have just had that happen on this particular lap because the gap is back down to 2.5 seconds between Black Hawk Racing and Team Rookie Monsters. Charlie Rigo is starting to drop back. So what's happened there? Maybe a bit of bad luck in the traffic conditions. But he's at least 1.5 seconds, if not more, behind these two leading cars. Now coming into the final 5 minutes here. Oh, a lot of puff of smoke coming from the car ahead. That was the Juices Motorsport Club. They're still running with Luca Gray behind the wheel. So every single corner counts here now. So yes, Robert Pawn confirmed coming into the pit lane. That is their final pit stop. Splash and dash. That's given them a 2-second advantage over the guys behind. So could we see in the next 5 minutes a three-way battle for the lead in prototype, and we are about to see a battle for the lead in GT3 as well for both second and third. Colin Sanders, once again, another opportunity presents itself as they come onto the back straight, exiting turn 5 with as much momentum as possible. Slipstreaming in effect and coming down the back straight. It's going to try it around the outside again. Daniel Ersling just knows where to place the car. These guys know exactly what they're doing. Here comes the switchback though. Colin Sanders trying to go around the outside. But then the opportunity, as soon as he gets to that point, the opportunities run out. This is a rinse and repeat of what we saw just a few moments ago. No doors open for them to take advantage, and sliding back into that original position. So falling right straight back behind that Ferrari. There is a battle. I tell you what, there's battles for the lead. Between Mosef Benamar, Charlie Rigo, so it's a three-way brawl for the final stage of the race here. You've got a battle for first, which is about 1.5 seconds adrift. These guys for third place. You've got battles going on for P10, P11. It's happening up and down the order. It's absolutely everywhere in the last 5 minutes. This is a fabulous afternoon's race. In fact, I think it might be one of my favourites of the season, in all honesty, so far. Colin Sanders once again on the attack then. The slipstream in effect. Daniel Ersling has no friends ahead to provide a slipstream, so he will need to defend once more. Positioning the car in the centre. Colin Sanders once again applying pressure to the outside. A small love tap on the rear bumper of the Ferrari. Nothing too serious though as they try to find a way through. And this is so difficult. He must be getting so frustrated inside that Corvette. But cool head is needed. He needs to keep focused and stay firmly attached. No mistake is allowed if he's going to be in the fight here. In the meantime, the number one is defending against Mosab Benamar for Black Hawk Racing. They're really starting to heat things up and apply the pressure. On-off Racing still in the fight, but not directly involved as of yet. But that could change once these two start going wheel to wheel. Another opportunity for Colin Sanders entering the back straight once more. Slipstream in effect. Here come our leaders as well. They'll come into the fray as you see the number one starting to come down the back straight as well. Black Hawk Racing in hot pursuit once again. Defensive move from Daniel Ersling and the Bros Racing Ferrari. Colin Sanders trying once again to wedge that Corvette in between at least one of the apexes here, but being sensible about it at the same time. Here comes Robert over the crest of the hill. Then it's Black Hawk Racing, followed by Charlie Rigo. Close behind, three-way battle for the lead. And this is going to be a bit messy. Number 2 trying to force the issue down into the inside of the carousel. The Corvette already had the line. That was very aggressive stuff there from the number 1. Not too sure what's going to happen about that. But he had no right to be. There was a bit of a dive bomb there from the leading team, Ricky Mastercard. And here comes team Black Hawk Racing. On-off Racing close behind as well. The Ferrari's in the way, splits the two. Everything still to play for here, though. Gap now between Charlie Rigo. So they've fallen back just ever so slightly due to the GT3 traffic. So it just means it may be a two-horse race between these two. But again, that incident with the Corvette, I'm not too sure if that will be frowned upon by race control. They could get a drive-through. I'm not really too sure. It will need to be looked at from a different angle. And there's a lot of traffic now coming into play here. The number 10 Corvette coming through. He goes onto the grass ever so slightly. Oh, nearly loses it, as that would have taken out the number 6. That would have been a huge way to end this race for them. And Black Hawk Racing now in the fray. Of course, they had a bad round at Spa, but now they want revenge. They want to get back in this championship fight, and it is on. Going side by side, here comes the overspeed from Black Hawk Racing. He's going to take the outside line. Not able to get alongside for the next corner though. Coming up into the final few stages now. And I believe this might be the last lap of the race, if I'm not mistaken, as I come across the start-finish line. It says there's 0 seconds remaining. That can't be correct. I think the overlay might be broken here. Yes, it is. So that is the end of the race, according to this. So that is very bizarre. They really need to fix this overlay, man. It just doesn't talk to the server at all. It always just is too slow. And yeah, we have it, your winners for this afternoon. Still controversy over that number 1's last minute move. I'm not too sure if anything will happen with that, but Robert Pawn and the team Ricky Monsters come across the line in first place, followed by Moseb Ben Amar for the Black Hawk Racing team. Great performance and great racing from all involved. Charlie Rigo comes home third for On-Off Racing. And then in GT3, we have Luigi Russo taking their first victory here this afternoon for Minato Boffa Sim Racing. Balas Kiss in the 18 Simco car in second, and then Daniel Ersling for the 87. So this has been one hell of a race here. I've loved every single moment of it. So let's have a look at the official results if we can. So that has been the 3 hours of Mid-Ohio, round 5 of the championship for you here, ladies and gents. It has been absolutely mega, if I don't mind saying so myself. I've enjoyed every single moment of it. Let's have a quick look at the standings for you now as we get the warm down phase underway. So, as already mentioned, Team Ricky Monsters with Robert Pawn coming home in first place. Any penalties we don't know about, or nothing's been informed. We haven't been informed about anything as of yet. And then Black Hawk Racing just behind by less than a few tenths of a second. Motorhead Benamar for Black Hawk Racing really performing well there. Charlie Rigo for the 79 on-off racing team coming home third. Really strong performance from these guys. But not enough to secure that win that they were so desperately after. And then Dimitri Bushka for the 66, a really strong tactical approach to this race, but again traffic coming into the calculations, and that means that they finish about 10 seconds down. Royal Blue Racing, really strong performance from them, they come home in P4, and then it's the Fair Racing team by Paul Holt in P6. Go Team Racing, strong performance coming home in P7, and then the number 2 coming home in P8. Tony Anston for the other sister Fair Racing team coming home in P9, and then Juices Motorsport for P10 with Luca Gray behind the wheel. Once again, Nick Newcomb unfortunately having that DC issue at the end of at the start of the race. My apologies. Moving over to GT3, Luigi Ruza coming home with the first victory for Minato Boffa Sim Racing, their BMW, and Balaskis coming home in second place for Simco Porsche Racing. That means that they will still be in second place in the championship standings, but at the same time they will have closed that gap up to Daniel Ersling and the Bros Racing Ferrari, who come home in third. Colin Sanders for Trax VR Racing, really strong performance from them. They had the tactical approach to really do well here, but they got held up behind that Ferrari ahead. But really strong performance, good battling between those two. 69 from RSA Sim Racers in P5, and then you have Adam Shipstone for Team Ricky Monsters in P6. The number 3 from Team Ricky Monsters, they come up close behind in P7, and then Houdini Racing and their Bentley in P8. 9th place belongs to the number 8 Corvette from Minato Boffa Sim Racing, and then the number 10 SWMD Ajax Sim Racing from Chris Rock coming out in the final top 10 positions for you. Panical Racing with Perseus Moran is 11th place. In 12th we have the number 80 from Shattered Windshield Racing. Then it's the number 19. They had some issues near the end of their race, unfortunately coming home P13. And then Panica Gaming coming home in P14. Then it's Vaughan Freeman for 15th place, followed by the 88 from Bros Racing Ferrari. And then the last of the runners is the 91 in 17th place. Fortunately, the rest of them are DNFs, but to be honest, there hasn't been that many of them here this afternoon. I thought we was going to have a very large list of DNFs indeed, but I'm very pleased to say that that has not happened. So, well, I guess congratulations to all involved to make it to the end of Mid-Ohio. It's been a very strange change of pace here for the guys. Of course, they just came out of the 6 hours of Spa, a circuit that has plenty of room to maneuver in these multi-class racing conditions, but this has definitely spiced things up. Next, in 2 weeks' time, we go to Watkins Glen. It's going to be another spectacular race, I'm sure, as it definitely offers a lot of overtaking opportunities, and it just flows beautifully. Another great American circuit that we'll be visiting this season. Of course, we've been commentating with myself in the commentary box, Matt Sanson, and Race Control is David Buckley. He was meant to be the commentator today, but he ran into some issues, hence why the overlay is incorrect at the bottom there. But that's it for this round, guys. Thank you very much for watching. It's been an absolute pleasure to spend some time with you and bring you this racing action. If you did enjoy it, don't forget to give us a thumbs up, and if you love the channel and want to see more racing fun, then don't forget to hit that sub as well. So this is us saying goodbye. We'll see you in 2 weeks' time for Watkins Glen, where the action continues. Stay safe out there, and goodbye.